Right, we are back. So that means that already in the YouTube, there'll be a bunch of people like, oh, I miss Nymera. It's like, 1, he isn't dead. 2, he's on Power Spike. And 3, okay, what do you want me to do with that? Can't just have people on shows because you like them.
Oh, is that what people say? No.
Yeah. And again, I'll just point this out. Don't blame me. Blame Nemesis for diving in on that fucking E or whatever it was. I didn't make him do that. Listen, Nymera would still be here right now, and then next episode we'll be welcoming back Yamato after winning LEC versus. So personally, I thought that would be great. See, the genius thing there is, Yamato, I've sort of trapped you, haven't I? Which did I want? Did I want Nymera to stay? Did I want Los Ratones to do well? Or did I just not want to do a show with you? You figure it out. It's now I'm doing stealth insults where they're wrapped up in compliments and mixed with contextual temporal components. Also, the fact that I can just say that, the fact that I can just say that sentence that I never thought of in my entire life before, live, impromptu, with no stumbling over my words. That's why I'm good at what I do. See the difference? When I go in Nemesis, I land the combo and they get up. Say, no, whatever. Well, listen, put that to one side.
I just imagine whenever you say like this volatile shit, I'm just imagining it's Lance Armstrong. It's just
exactly.
In the voice of Lance Armstrong.
Listen, we all have two people sat on our shoulders, not an angel and a devil. I have Lance Armstrong. I have both. I have Lance Armstrong afterwards when he got banned, and then before he got banned. And listen, when he got banned, he's like, that's bullshit, it's unfair. Before he got banned, he's like, more EPO or whatever, please. I need to win some fucking races against these European twats. So give me that yellow jacket, whatever, jersey, whatever it is. Right, by the way, obviously, this episode is going to be a massive blockbuster, guys, because we've actually just finished 3 regions all in one weekend, didn't we? In fact, let's just start there, mate. We're going to obviously go into the big topics, but on one hand, right, I do follow a lot of sports, and sometimes I have to say it can be really awesome that a lot of finals and cup finals are on Sundays. So sometimes you do get a day, by the way, that is baller. Like I've had days where I just book it out where it'll be like, there'll be like a football final into like UFC on the week, some shit like that. It'll be like a mega day. I want to actually ask you though, do you think in League it's a mistake that so many of the finals are on the same weekend though? Because I don't know if you saw that graphic. There was a graphic last week where it was like Sunday, and bro, look, some of these are minor regions like LCP and stuff, but there was about 8 finals on the Sunday, like across. So essentially, I guess if you really just sat there like 24/7, like Malcolm from Clockwork Orange, you could watch all of them. But do you think they should space them out? Do you like it when they're all on the same weekend? How do you handle that?
For me, it's convenient, right? It's like I do my 16-hour streams and I just slam them out, and I like it because there's something on all the time. But I can imagine it's like you get nervous there for a moment because if LEC has some delays and LEC has overlap with LCS, because there was fluidity there. Like the LEC was finished exactly at 22. There was still like caps interviews going while LCS was starting, and luckily LCS had delays. They had pauses in the beginning, and I think the moment there's overlap, I imagine that there is a mistake in scheduling. Like if there's no overlap at all, I think it makes sense because from a competitive standpoint, it's like the LPL teams now, the teams that qualify, they will technically have like 1 week less to prepare. Like it's pretty much like rock and roll almost instantly. It's like next week they play, and then 1 week, and then first stand is that next week. So it's going to be tougher for them for sure.
But you know what? Unlike all the other weeks, where a bit of my own elitism and the fact it's just not been as interesting a region, normally I do treat LCS like it's the red-headed stepchild that lives in the attic that we feed fish heads. Meanwhile, LCK and LPL, they're my like beloved children that sit at the dinner table with me. And then I guess LEC is just a dog in the backyard I throw some scraps to every now and then. But I do have a soft spot for, at least it's not the red-headed stepchild in the attic. Actually, you know what? Welcome out of the attic, freak fucking red-headed child that we're all ignoring. LCS, because believe it or not, there is actually some pretty blockbuster. If people haven't watched LCS, think about the past episodes. The main problem the league had was it was just a 1-team region run by Cloud9. It looked like no one had a chance to beat them, and even worse, because no one could really beat them or test them. It was out also, you got that like classic problem of like, it's hard to even know how good Cloud9 is. Like, is it that they're actually like way above the level and they'd actually be like better than European team? Are they actually worse and they just don't have competition who's pushing them? I mean, a classic thing I'll give a very quick point to tie into is if people remember like 3 years ago when it was Team Liquid that was the #1 NA team, I used to worry about exactly that problem because if you remember, remember, they looked like way too good at drafting that old lineup with APA and all them, and because I used to think, yeah, but if you're drafting solved in a region where you don't have any competition, maybe it's just because no one knows how to play against the shit you play. And I won't say that was totally wrong, because actually they did turn out to be pretty good internationally. But the blockbuster news is this: we have to turn the whole story on its head for LCS, because bro, Cloud9 not only didn't win, I was kind of shocked by how that final went, mate. Like, that was, I thought if Cloud9 lose, you're going to have that thing where it's going to take like the big, greatest game of all time from the, this was actually like Lyon, that's just won the tournament, was just a better team, mate. Like, I don't know if they would be every day. Maybe Cloud9 is the best, but mate, in this final, like, this is kind of comprehensive. What did you think?
It's just the regular demons for C9 really showing up. I do think there was always a problem with C9 in terms of what their individual ceiling would be. I think that was a concern of mine with how the split kind of played out, especially if you look at the earlier series and also in the qualification process. There was a reason Lyon started lower. And Saint wasn't playing well, Dokla wasn't playing well. Maybe there was issues in terms of how they kind of scrambled to put a team together. Maybe they had less practice, maybe the visa problems and so forth. Maybe this is something that made them lag behind. But in terms of the level that they showed early on, the promise of how good Saint was mechanically, and also the bot lane, the flaw of having Isles together with Berserker, held back Berserker, and then it kind of looked like Inspired was just dragging people over the finish line. That remained to be true in the context of Inspired in terms of how they ramped up, but everyone else also leveled up big time. Like, if someone told me Dokla would win a series playing Varus, Vayne, and Irelia top and performing quite well, yeah, I'd be, I'd be saying, "Yo, what kind of drugs are you on?" Like, this is you're an argument against prohibition of all these substances. Either way, in terms of the final, individually, I just felt like Lyon outperformed them pretty much in every single position. I think Isles was just kind of a side character there. He had like one good poppy game. Otherwise, he was kind of non-existent, but it was okay because Dokla was finding solo kills on Thanatos. We also had Saint finding solo kills on, of course, the enemy mid. And then Berserker actually looked like he had that flair, like he had that edge in terms of how clean he plays team fights and leverages leads. When he was on a carry, he had any form of advantage, he was just winning. And then on top of that, Inspired against Blaber is just a tale as old as time. Like, Blaber in that series, some of the decisions he's making are just so mind-boggling. You can make a clear montage now, looking back at C9 and Blaber in their history. The finals that Blaber has won have always been easy. And it just seems like whenever there's any form of resistance that he just loses himself completely, because there's been too many times now. You can make a montage of every final the C9 lost, and it's just something where Blaber just completely loses his mind. It was the game against the Trundle where he just goes over the wall on the Wolves, and you're just thinking to yourself, what the hell? And then was the awkward moment in the game 4 when basically Dom is having an interview backstage like they do, and they're asking him the question. It's like, yo, what was the main thing that you think needs to be different coming into this one? And he just says, I just want to have a stable early game. We need to secure ourselves. And Javan is just taking the enemy camps on the screen, level 3 ganking bot, and just winning and blowing the game open. So in terms of like connecting that to where Blaber was and C9 was the entire split, it's like they were always on point with these jungle details and understanding how to play the level 1, how to play the crabs. And suddenly that was just lost completely, and they had no traction in the lane phase either. And Lyon was just in full gear on an individual level. And I have to say, Inspired is like, maybe this is a conversation that we can talk about after we talk in completion with this series. But I think you can even begin to make the argument that maybe Inspired is like the best North American player, like the best LCS player of all time, because doing what he has done with 3 separate rosters, winning the LCS with 3 separate rosters, when in the beginning it looked like the roster wasn't supposed to accomplish super much with new names, new players, and still revamp them in a way to make them very inspired teams, because it's very specific how inspired teams play, and it's so obvious that, like, especially with how much voice comms they show, that he is just driving the team completely. So just insanely impressive. Like, there's very few players that can carry at that level.
Actually, let's start on that because I actually agree. I was going to make the overall point just that Cloud9 fell because I'm sorry, at the moment, I have to see how Lyon does, obviously. Like, remember, this isn't even the roster they originally wanted. Like, Dorkler is literally not even supposed to be in LCS. He's only here because the Zamundo guy couldn't get the visa, which, by the way, it's now being confirmed even that that's just not happening. He's even going to go and be like an NACL player or something because at the point of his career, it just looks like he can't get the visa forever. So they were stuck with this roster in the end. But I was going to make the bigger angle, as I say it. Like, the whole split's been the story of Cloud9 and then they don't win. But how were you actually? You know what? The spicier angle is exactly that one. It's not a brand new narrative that people don't know. This actually began when Inspired was on Evil Geniuses and first came all those years ago and had Peter Dunn as his coach. One of the problems was this, right? It's actually why it's quite fitting that Dom is the coach of Cloud9 now, because if anyone knows, one of the main areas that me and Dom had a difference of opinion on is Dom always was a mad Blaber glazer. Like, he always thought that Blaber was like fucking insane. Put it this way, he had like Blaber as like candidate for like NA GOAT or something, I think. Like, I think he had him in the same category with like the Bjergses and the Jensen, and definitely Jungle, he obviously had him as the GOAT. Like, he just had so much success. And look, certainly Blaber was in 1 billion finals. He's been pretty much on a competitive team almost the entire time. In fact, the joke is, if people remember beginning of his career, he actually displaced Svenskeren when Svenskeren was the fucking MVP of the league, which is actually kind of impressive, right? And I get it that, like, if you saw the youth of Blaber at the time, remember, he was a literal proving grounds player, if people don't remember. And then he came in, he was good. He obviously, by the way, he obviously has wild natural talent. Like, I even think you could compare him, if you, even though people might think this comparison is aged badly, it hasn't. He'll be back soon, don't worry. I'd say he's like a North American Razork. There's clear talent there, mate, and there's also clearly like a sort of a genius, intuitive mind for how to play the game. And I always think the best Blaber games, fully enough, start like the worst Blaber games, Yamato. They all start super up-tempo and high fucking damage and going for loads of plays. The problem is all the worst Blaber games go like that too. And so the issue is this, Yamato. It's not just like Blaber in isolation, has he accomplished all he could? It's that specifically in the last like half a decade or so, it's one guy that keeps just hard countering him, which is Inspired. And unfortunately, it makes a lot of sense because if you think about Inspired is more the guy where I always think this is an interesting thing about junglers. When you see a jungler with insane mechanics, bro, like a Tarzan or something like that, or you do look and you're like, wow, there's a level no one else can go to. But have you ever noticed how the really amazing brain junglers, which fully of Tarzan also is, but that's just because he's OP, most amazing brain junglers, it's the other way around. It's not that they don't look like they have mechanics, it's just like they never seem like they need them. You know what I mean? Like, I always used to say that about Diamond Procs back in the day. Probably you never watched a Diamond Procs play and were like, oh, he just got outhandsed. You were just like, it was all about decision making, you know, if he made the right decision making. And also, it's not that they have bad mechanics, it's more they just have smooth mechanics. I always said that they just looked effortless. Bro, Inspired just has all the counter qualities to Blaber, unfortunately. Like, he is the brain jungler. He is the guy who knows how to use his teammates. He is the guy who has like unusual champion pools that can counter yours. And he's always, this is why it's obvious that like LS is his best blood. He's also doing that, like, I've always got some secret tech I'm working on that might be OP, or is that even itself a distraction to make you ban that? Like, what do you think about this bigger angle? Because as you said, it's a classic storyline, but it keeps playing out, mate. A bit like Faker being clutch at Worlds is just a thing at this point in time. Inspired countering Blaber is just a thing in the LCS. It's just kind of like the general rule at this point, right?
It just seems to be it's two-sided, right? I think definitely Inspired as a player is so selective about the fights he puts himself in that it seems so damn rare that he's ever in a losing one because he just chooses not to take it. Even in the series before, when they played against Sentinels, there were so many Drakes that they just gave up. They just gave up. And it seems like when Inspired is ready to fight, they choose to take the fight. This is some Sun Tzu shit, you know? It's like just appear weak when you're strong, you know? Like, it's very, very strategic in terms of which fights they take. And Blaber is, of course, the opposite, where he just chooses every fight to take. It's kind of like how... like
I was an LPL jungler, I've always said. You know what I mean?
I kind of wanted to say it's like it's top esports versus T1. That's what it is.
Okay.
In a BO5.
Sure.
Blaber just turns desperate so fast because it's strange. I don't know if it comes from a point where he feels like his lanes aren't giving him as much as they usually do, or he feels like if in the game he's behind, that Inspire is going to take over because he plays a pretty flawless game. Like Inspire, when he's ahead, he stays ahead. a lot of players run into this trap where if something goes good for them, they feel stronger, but the gratification of your leads happens at very specific points in time. Economically in the game, it's like maybe you have your first item spike and there's a 2-minute window where you're stronger and you need to leverage that. But a lot of players, specifically Blaber, I think that he's the type of guy that something goes good, he wants to keep pressing, even though he's not really enjoying the lead just yet. And I think the moment he felt like he was getting split map invaded, he's just become so desperate because of the image he has of Inspired in his mind. And I think that's just something that plays out often. I do think that Blaber specifically, when it comes to the other details, I remember, of course, the final they had against FlyQuest. There was that game 5 moment where you just EQ'd in with Javan when it wasn't necessary. They had soul points spawning. You can kind of create a montage of those moments, and I don't know where that desperation comes from. I would have to talk to him, would have to break it down completely because the pattern is very, very clearly there. And I do think that Dom was also aware of this. So I'm intrigued to understand what they actually did to approach it. But I also don't want to put it fully on Blaber because Inspired's games had more options because he had actual winning lanes. And that helps so much. And that can also fuel that desperation because if you see your mid laner die level 4 1v1, it kind of changes your idea of what you want to do in the game or what you need to do in the game. Because a lot of your decisions need to come from a point of you trusting your teammates to fulfill their job and fulfill their role. And there were moments where they tried to play like that 2v2 APA. I remember the Annie Nocturne game. Annie died 1v1, but she kept flash, and they fought that 2v2 on the Raptors. They lost that fight because they just used summoners poorly, and in a lot of cases, I felt like C9 were just kind of breaking their hands. And we're focusing in on Blaber, but Thanatos as well is someone that needs, some flack here because we see the same pattern. It's like very lane dominant and then just shrivels up when it comes to the final games of the season. And the pattern for him has also been established. He gets solo killed in his last series of a split almost always. So that's also something to isolate. But the matchup in itself, I do think just Inspired is just so damn good at choosing his fights correct. And Blaber is very predictable in his play pattern.
I'll give you a sports analogy, and anyone who watched any tennis for the last 10 years will know the very basic gist of what I'm saying here, right? I'll give you an analogy. So my favorite player to watch was Roger Federer, right? And one of the reasons I enjoy his style of tennis is he has a very attacking style where he basically goes for what you call winners all the time. He tries to hit the hard shot that you can't hit all the time. Now, when he would play against people, most famously like Novak Djokovic, Djokovic's style is more like of a controlling, I punish your mistakes style, right? And what's funny is you might think to yourself, if you play someone like that and you lose to them generally, that eventually what you're going to do is adapt their style a little bit and play it a bit more conservative and sort of make it like a stalemate, right? And then let's see who wins. But the problem is actually what it made Federer do is because he had an insecurity that he was going to lose in this way because it played out so many times. This is where you'll see the analogy. It would actually make him go even harder into his style. So he would just try and hit even harder winners of even smaller margins because his brain, this is where you'll see the analogy. His brain had the desperation of I lose to this guy anyway, so I'm going to have to essentially go really extreme and go take chances to win the game. And in doing so, though, as a result, unfortunately, that can play into that style of Djokovic even more because then he just punishes. But essentially, you're making him hit a hard shot, but also it's harder for you to land that shot and get right inside the line. So I feel like that's what Blaber does. That's what you're talking about here, mate. The real problem Blaber has is this: you'd like to, as a silly fan, just go, "Hey, bro, just calm down a bit. Look for some angles, play a bit more." But because that's not really his game anyway, and then in this case, he's lost so many fucking times to Inspired. I feel like his solution every time, which is also a very LPL jungler-esque style, is let's just do it even more. Because essentially, I know what you mean. If you ever look at these big finals he loses, he's not losing it for the reasons where there's certain people can't pull the trigger. They're too hesitant when they get nervous, or they feel like they can't make a play. Or in your example, when you're ahead, then you just let the lead fizzles away and don't do anything with it, and you don't know when you have to push it. And when in his case, he does what I would call a reach, bro. He goes too far. He goes one step too far. Essentially, I always say people like that, I don't blame them because their instinct is good. Like their instinct is try and make something happen, try and win the game. The problem is though, it's like there's a concept right now I want to bring to you very briefly. It goes like this. There was once an amazing interview Kobe Bryant did, right, where someone asked him, how do you hit like a buzzer beater in the NBA? And what's funny, Yamato, is you would think he would say all the shit from a movie. Like, right, what I do is I just think to myself, like, you're the greatest player ever. You know, this is going to be history when you hit this. And, you know, when you win this, the whole team's going to... And he actually said, I do the opposite. He said, what I do instead is I try to take all the epicness out of the moment and make it like it's just another shot. And what I tell myself is, I've done this shot like 1,000 times in practice. I practice it every day. It's no big deal compared to just the ones I shot in practice when no one was here. He does the opposite. He tried to like remove all the stakes up so he didn't get affected. But I feel like people like Blaber are in that first camp. They're all thinking like, mate, when I go in on this Lyon queue, this is the player that's going to turn it all around. Finally, I'm going to beat Inspired. I'm going to get that title. No haters going to... But the problem is, like, you can imagine them thinking all that as they go in on the queue. And then when they arrive, they just get blown up completely like, oh, shit. And the worst part about doing a play like that, Yamato, I can tell you, if you're the jungler, this is a classic league problem, is... A lot of players like that, you're just trusting your team to get a sense of what you're doing. They can't really be communicated what your whole plan is. So unfortunately, if you ever do like his classic one, it's flashing in too far. Like if you're flashing too far, you're just going to get popped. And unfortunately, your team probably isn't on the same page. In fact, even worse, by the way, if junglers go too far in game fives, bro, the classic one is that like carries are the ones that are more conservative. They're the ones who don't want to get blown up in the team fight and lose the game. And so they tend to, in these matches, like play right on the edges. So I don't know. I put it this way, I don't blame Dom at all for the Blaber issue, because on that sort of a problem, as we pointed out, it's not something that just happened this week, mate. This just seems like a traditional counter. Inspired just had a game that fits really well into Blaber's. You're not going to solve that overnight, mate. That's not even something where, like, this is where a fan maybe doesn't get it. That's not something Blaber's unaware of. I would guarantee you behind the scenes, Blaber knows this is an issue, and he probably even thought all these things through that we just said. The problem is, it's really hard to coach people to change like their instincts. You know what I mean? Like I always think the problem is this: if I'm a coach, on the one hand, I want you to play off your instincts because that's what you've practiced off. That's what your years of experience tell you. But it's going to be really tricky to break those like habits or adjust them a little bit.
I think the biggest danger now, right, is that, as strange as it might sound, this series was actually an argument for him to elevate risk based on where his lane, where his lanes were at, because they were getting outlaned and they weren't really qualifying into the games after, of course, the game 2.
Yes.
So it's like there's an argument there that is lingering, but everyone needs to kind of do their part. I do think that C9 is in a better spot now, because usually what happens when you perform poorly in the finals is that there's a big delay on what comes next. And the fact that there is an America's Cup, it's like there is no like big break.
Yeah,
they have to address it right away. They have to scrim.
Yeah, the big bomber here is that obviously there is no second spot unlike LCK and LPL. If Cloud9 was still going to first stand, it'd be something right now. You just go back and you're doing scrims again against no one, right?
You do scrims, right? But they have the America's Cup. I don't know if you heard about it, but you have the Brazil,
Yes.
Brazil. So they have games to chew into and games to kind of address. And you know, it's strange because like Blaber just has such a unique history with C9 because it's like intertwined. Because we've had that story of, oh, they won spring and then they fall off in summer and then they lose to NRG out of nowhere, or they don't even make worlds after having like almost a borderline perfect spring split. And like the easy ones they win. Like the easy ones they win. When it's 3-0, very clean sweep. I remember like when Jensen came in and revamped the team, or Perk's era in summer, I remember. Like when the splits are easy to win and they are just like 3-0ing, no problem, then it seems to be easy breezy. But maybe in that spot, it's like when the player that is APA, like he had the worst series, like after a very, very strong split, this was also his worst series. And I do think that he needs someone to be like a backbone for him, to have the backup on the decisions that he does do. Because throughout the split, a lot of the things that he did do did make sense, but the counter argument to that is that level 1 and onward in a lot of these games, he was just really, really far behind. I think the tricky thing for C9 specifically, with Lyon really ramping up now, is that they will have this issue that I think this team doesn't offer up enough firepower. meaning like who's going to carry. Like if you have an even state Berserk against Sven, I have a lot of respect for Sven. I think he is a very, very strong role player and is still doing really good and had a very good playoff run. It's just that if it's head to head, I'm going to go for Berserker if it just comes down to who's going to perform better in the team fights. And that's when the creativity and the consistency and the team play needs to overtake. But if you can't get into the games because you get outlaned, that's going to be a very, very tough problem to solve, because getting better individually is something that is very tricky to do unless the meta just hits just right. But the meta was in a good spot for C9, so I don't know how they're going to develop from here. It's going to be a challenge because I think other teams are also going to get better.
By the way, I'm also with you. Even though the historical narratives will say like this is like Blaber versus Inspired again, I agree with you. The other problem is this: if Blaber also had like winning solo lanes, I'd blame him way harder, mate. I'm with you though. Like I actually think the most underrated sleeper angle of this final. People bring up the Dorkla angle mainly because of what I said earlier. He wasn't in the LCS. He even had to do that thing last year where he came back into 100 Thieves and got the roster spot and did well again. Ignore that for a second. It's not just Dorkla. It's who he was playing against. As you said, bro, Thanatos actually until this final should have been contender for like best player in the whole region. Like he looked like he was outclassing all the top laners. I'm with you, mate. He looked mega in lane. He really did. It's why, unfortunately, that guy, I always get so scared. It's going to be some like Photon vibes where it's like, or Alfari. Like these people don't get it. They use it as a diss that they're only good in lane. No, they're exceptionally good in lane. Like they're really good. The problem is they do seem to have some sort of issue though, sometimes turning that into a win. And this isn't like 2013 League of Legends where just winning the lane wins you the game. Like I'm sorry, there's so much more to League of Legends because I know what you mean. Like that's the bigger angle for the Dorkla one for me there. I'll say this to you before we start the episode. I actually think Dorkla, this is where people go too far. It's not that he's actually like in isolation, some like world-class top laner who's incredible. What I think of him is, bro, I just think of him as like Western Flandria. Because whenever I watch Flandria, anyone's legend play, I always just think he's not even trying to like solo kill people half the time. He's not even trying to like ego win the lane on CR. His job is that he knows I'm just here to neutralize everyone else and make sure my team always has a chance in the game, which by the way, it turns out is actually mega valuable if you have good players elsewhere in your roster. So I think one, for Dorkla, what a fucking fantastic job he did against Thanatos in this final. And I'm with you. You can definitely put some blame at Thanatos' feet for the way this one went. Like, again, if I'm Blaber and I'm struggling with all these, mate, if I had a winning top player in some of these matches, I might even go for some of these players. I wouldn't even have to. Like, I could have the choice of when I do things in that sense, as we alluded to earlier.
No, it's crazy. Dokla is just a mercenary. He just comes in, and I think it was very telling what he said in the interview after the Varos Vayne Irelia series, is that he didn't play to press his advantage. He said that I could have won lane even harder, but I just played to go 50-50 because I just thought this is the pick that is going to win the game as it scales on. Very, very minimum risk, very, very stable, and sometimes that's all you need. And I think this is definitely the case for this team. I do think a lot of things fall into place with time in their games, which I think is a massive advantage. I think the Lyon roster now, I think that the main flaw they will always have, because obviously people are going to ask that question, it's like, are they better than the European team? I think,
yeah, of course.
It's like, it's with Isles there. I'm sorry, Isles, but
Yes.
it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's just the conversation of. I think you could even go so far. I think Casey would beat them. I think MCoy would beat them. This team is just flawed because of how their super position is, and I do think that they took advantage of a lot of things falling apart in the league. I think Lyon is really good individually on a lot of spots, but I do think the lack of support is going to be so tough because they're going to play against Labrov, Busio, and in the context of that, Isles was just a non-factor in too many of these games. That is going to be a tricky thing for Inspire to do what he does. So I do think just want to hammer home that point. The LEC in Europe right now, I would stake my claim on it way better, especially with how C9 fell apart.
No, the problem you have has always been that once you get past, I mean, Busio doesn't even play the region anymore. It used to just be Busio and Core JJ the last few years with a really good support. So I know what you mean. Any other team, that's why I never believed in them. Like, if you had Ayla or Isles, I'm sorry, I just don't believe you'll ever be able to compete against, first of all, back in the day it would be Mickey X, etc. But fuck it, Carrier, Mako, like, these are some of the best players of all time, mate. And some of them were still, like, at peak level. So I know what you mean. Also, here's the one thing I do think about Lyon that has to be stated, though, being that mind they've won the split. Bro, now I sort of low-key get beyond money why Inspired joined this team. Remember, he's the one who even said about Saint that, like, he thinks he might be even better mechanically than Jojo, mate. Like, he gave this guy a lot of praise. The problem is, you can see, yes, he's very raw, mate. Like, he had some games earlier this one that looked shit. Like, absolutely. And so that's why a lot of people had given up online. And remember, they had to start in the fucking lower bracket. They never even played them in the upper bracket. They played them in that stupid Swiss thing at the beginning when they didn't get the roster. So, but I tell you what, he clearly does have talent, though. I can see what they mean. Like, there's something there. Look, I do have my questions, but I will do at the first stand. I imagine you'll probably have some hard games, but at least there's something you're cooking with that, mate.
No, it's just impressive because always we have those characters come in as importers. Like, mechanically, they are demons, but they have no in-game brain, so to speak. Yeah. And paired together with Inspired, and it just seems to be such a winning recipe. Because Jojo Pion's first split won it, and probably he wouldn't have developed as a player, even though mechanically he was fantastic from the get-go. Yes. He was there with Inspired, and it just opens
even
up
quad, the second quad joint that were winning. Like, actually, if anything, Inspired has an unbelievable track record with, like, fresh fucking mid laners, mate. It's nuts, isn't it?
It's like Inspired for me. His career in the LCS specifically, like not even counting Europe. It's just in the comparison where it's like Doublelift, Bjergsen. These are the guys, right, that we compare it to. It's just you never get to see a player have his intangibles so damn measured. Like, intangible in the sense that, sure, you can see how much someone shot calls and comms, but we don't get to see that. So it's quite intangible for us. But they're showing that on broadcast perma, and to have won championships with players that had no business, like, winning championships. Like, if you think about the conversation at the beginning of the season, players turn elite. Before they turn elite, they are not elite. It's like whether Masu was not in that box, Busio was not in that box. It's like a lot of these players that we take for granted are now, like, really, really good and up there. They weren't a part of that conversation. You mentioned Quad. Yes. I think with the majority of this roster too, I didn't expect like Saint to have his first championship here, Isles to have his first championship here. Like Isles is an LCS champion. That's very, very, like, impossible to conceive. And by the sheer weight of what Inspired has done, I think there are junglers that are comparable to him if I only think about jungle. Like, if I had to measure jungle versus jungle in terms of mechanic, maybe I put Skumond over Inspired if I just think about the jungle role. But I don't think Skumond could do what Inspired did on this team. Never.
I'll give you the example, right? First of all, when you're setting up this example here, right, the difference is, by the way, here's even a side angle no one even thought of. If you want Dokler, free tweet for you here, mate. You should just tweet out and put at Whippo. Turns out winning championships with Inspired as your jungler's easy. There's a fucking tweet right there, mate. Because Whippo was talking all that shit, wasn't it? Like, mate, if you're Whippo, mate, did you even win the championship? Did you just play with Inspired? Were you just on the bus that he was driving? Because I agree with you, Yamato. First of all, I think whenever you do a GOAT conversation, there's a point people miss about this, mate. What people do is they think the GOAT conversation is only people who they think are the GOAT. No, you missed it. What you do before you decide is you make essentially the first group of people who could be the GOAT. You ask who deserves to be in this conversation. And then what you do is, by making your reasons and explaining the difference between the players, you gradually eliminate people until at the end you've got one, or sometimes it's hard, you've got two and you pick one out of the two, you know. In this analogy, I know what you mean. If I was making the list, right, I could do it really quickly. You've just done something. You'd go like Bjergsen, obviously, because he was super clutch, he had a million championships. Doublelift had a lot of championships, a lot of different teams. Jensen, because he had the international success, but he also had a lot of great runs. And then you'd add in Core JJ as a non-carry role. You could add in, obviously, Impact, just because he was there a long time. And then obviously, if you want other junglers, you put in like Meteor, Smithy, right? Here's the difference though. With all those other players, everyone else there, with exception of maybe Core JJ, if I'm putting in Smithy and Meteors, they were fabulous junglers. If we're talking again, like you said, just the role, they were excellent. They were really good and they complement the other teams. Here's the difference. Actually, what Inspired's done is more comparable to what Core JJ did. Bro, these are his teams. Like, you could change the players on these teams and they still win because they still play his style to his strengths, and actually his strengths in this case. I agree with you. You can have a pure support player who you might think is better than actually, like maybe Busio was better than Core JJ the last few years. The difference is Busio doesn't run the whole team, mate. He doesn't make all the decisions. He doesn't bring in a new player and then work with him and make it. Because I know what you mean. If you look at some of these players, mate, some of these players were nothing before Inspired. And beyond people like Jojo, some of them never will be. Like, I'm going to go ahead and make a prediction right now. Quad will never win another championship. You know what? Without Inspired, he's good, but he's just an above average mid laner in the LCS. He's not even the best mid laner, for fuck's sake. Like, the joke is, you actually look, and a bit like my joke I just made about Dorkler. Tell you what, mate, if I'm people like Quid, I'm just thinking, maybe I'd have won instead of you, Quad, if I'd have had Inspired. Maybe if you'd have had fucking River and I'd have had Inspired, I'd be the one sat on all the championships. Because I know what you mean. Inspired, it's why actually I think some people think he gets overrated. Because they're looking at just what he does in the game. And he's not pulling off that many crazy, flashy moves. But he's not doing what Blaber does. He's not doing some like outrageous mechanical. But it's like, if you look in his team, either someone else is a genius shot caller telling him where to go, or this guy just has like a sixth sense for where he goes and how his team plays, mate. Because I think this is the ultimate example. Because think about, if you wanted to talk shit, this is actually your best team to talk shit with if you're Inspired. It's like, bro, I didn't even ask for the guy in top lane. He's not even supposed to be in the league. Won with him, by the way. Don't worry about that. I had him fucking beating one of the best Korean players. And then my mid laner, quite literally, is a guy no one even knew. It's like a massive gamble. Like, if I even thought earlier this split, that's where Inspired's fucked up. He's done the classic move a lot of Westerners do of like, this Korean guy's insane. And it's like, yeah, but wouldn't you rather just have, like, in this case, APA, who's like a guaranteed known quantity? You know, the difference is he's never going to have a really bad split. You know, you're going to know what you work. Tell you what, I was wrong. You win Inspired. Turns out you were right. You actually can just work with any of these players and get it done. Because I think this championship is mad impressive, bro. This wasn't even on the radar for me. I really thought this would be like an easy 3-1, 3-0 for Cloud9. So I give a lot of the props to Inspired. I think it's nuts what this guy. And I agree with you. You can certainly put him in that convo. Look, I'll be honest. I'll probably still just say Bjergsen wins, because the problem is I just remember too many like legit carry series where Bjergsen just put the team on his back and they should have lost like 3-1 or something, and then they won 3-2. But once you get outside of Bjergsen and maybe Doublelift, this guy's the next person for me. Like I said, I had a lot of respect for Meteos and Nick Smithy, but they weren't running the team like this, man. They were just very good junglers within great teams. Like, this guy is his team on some level.
I think I do. There were so many fucking miracle runs that TSM did, like coming out of like 6th place in a regular split, barely going to playoffs, and then just like scrambling through all the way to a finals and just winning with Bjergsen. I think the main thing always is like why Inspired is such a different flavor, right? Is that Bjergsen was on the team that always attracted the biggest talent, right? It's like they always had the pick of the litter. They got to play with Sven and Mithy. They got the Yellow Star. They got all of these guys. And then he moved to Team Liquid, right? And like he always was surrounded by what was perceived. If you made a list, they were always like players, minimum top 3 if they got into the team. And Inspired comes with a very different flavor that he has done it with so many different players that, as we mentioned, we didn't think anything at all of before the season started. But it's an interesting conversation. It's like the fact that Inspired is in the conversation with the limited time, considering the longevity of Doublelift and Bjergsen in the league, is in my mind already. The fact that conversation, we can have it and not be crazy people, is already insane. I think this one is crazy.
You didn't say it explicitly there, mate, but that's another thing about Inspired. Look at the rosters he's winning with. He's winning with like fresh players that aren't even established like championship. In fact, some of them have just joined the league. Like that's all. The difference is Bjergsen had like Doublelift and great players. I think it's unreal, mate.
100%. Bless you, brother. Bless you. Get the LCS out of the system.
Yeah, all good. Caught it. Right.
Allergic to LCS. That's why we talk about it so little usually.
And by the way, here's the other detail to do, because I do always like to remind people of this. Inspired is still active, unlike those other names. He has a chance to build on this legacy and maybe become like the greatest ever. Like if he keeps doing this for a few more years, mate, eventually we're going to have to say he is the best ever. He's also doing it in the modern day too. It's also, notice in the modern day, you don't just pick your champion you're strong on and play out the lane and win the game. Like there's a lot of nuance to the game now. I also do think, by the way, genuinely, this is why I'm always so excited also when I watch Skumond over in G2, and we talk about it in a minute. This like, these guys aren't even just good at their role. They just understand the game, mate. They have a really deep sense. Like if these are the players for real, where I think if you were to pause on like a core stream and say to them, tell me what you're thinking now, you'd get some incredible insights, mate. They'd have like a really insane like read on what the other person's going to do or what their team can set up for. Like they're not just winning the game off like great hands or they're a great solo queue player. They clearly have like some deep competitive understanding. This is why I do think he's a leader. I think Inspired fucking mega, mate. I don't think you can overestimate this guy. He's too good.
I'm so happy we live in a world where, like, usually, like, esports finances are trash, but the fact that Caps and Inspired are allegedly the most paid players in the West, always, like, at least that is good, you know, because they deserve it. If all contracts disappeared tomorrow, these are the first 2 players you want to sign no matter what, because they're going to just bring your floor minimum top 3, minimum, instantly.
Yeah, there's another thing as well, by the way. Beyond just how good they are at the game, how guaranteed is the performance from these guys? You just know when you go into the playoffs, like they can lose, but if you lose, it's going to take like MCoy or Rogue have to have like the series of their life, bro. Or like in this analogy, yeah, you have to have like some fucking outrageous, like Team Liquid has to be the best team in the West to beat them or something. Like you never get a free win off these guys, mate. It's fucking hard to beat them in the playoffs, especially to be all 5, as we're seeing. Also, I'll tell you the last angle we'll go, then we'll talk about some other regions. Is, mate, all of a sudden, I now have a reason to watch next split of LCS. I was really worried that if C9 wins this final easily, I'm going to sort of fall in the next split. I'll watch the big game. I'll watch the C9 games. I'll watch the big ones. And I'll watch, when it's like FlyQuest versus C9. But aside from that, I'm not going to have that much interest in LCS. Mate, the next split is fucking game on. Like, if you are picked like Dom, as you say, you're back in the scrim server, mate, trying to win that America's Cup, then come back for the next split, and it should be like a proper like heavyweight battle for the top spot.
Agreed, yeah. It just got interesting, 100%. I would say though, like this America's Cup that's coming up for C9, they need to win it. They are the favorite to win it. I think they should win it, and that adds a pressure, which I think is healthy. Like they should. I think they are lucky that they get to play right away. The things don't stay unaddressed, and they have to go into action right away and work. It's easy to sweep those things under the rug, and then they creep up on you as playoff comes. But they gotta focus up, they gotta play. They're gonna fly out to Brazil, which I think is a good experience. I think if anything, shout out to LCS for throwing that in there, because I think it's a benefit, that the teams that made it to a certain place get to boot camp in Brazil, potentially get to scrim against the first 10 teams if they make it there on time to practice there. And I think that's solid. That's good.
What year were you born in, Yamato? What year in the 90s were you born in?
1995.
Okay, you might actually get this joke then. When they play in the America's Cup, the 2 CB LOL teams, one of them is Furia, right? And if people don't know, they have a jungler called Tattoo. So obviously, they're prepped for this America's team come over, going, they're not going to get us, Yamato. They're not going to get us. That's such an old school reference, but you know it. It's fire.
Yeah, of course.
See, here's the thing, Yamato.
Where's your mind going,
Listen,
bro? Your brain is leaving your skull, bro.
I have a saying that you're going to understand when I say this, which goes like this. People might go, Yamato, oh, that's low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruit is the most delicious. It's ripe and ready to be picked. What are you talking about? That's just lovely, delicious fruit, mate. What am I going to do? Shimmy up a tree and get some weird, fucking obscure fruit that's at the top. It's all diseased. Yeah, exactly. Listen, I just come along and I'm just offering everyone some nice fruit. Stop being rude. I'm being very generous right now with my time. I am wasting everyone's time. There's no analysis about league there, but don't worry about it. Anyway, I agree, though. They definitely have to win that one, because if you look at it, like Sentinels were kind of meh anyway. And at the moment, like, it's obviously sight unseen in my case. I'll be shocked if a CB LOL team can really beat you in BO5s. Because remember, beyond the first opening matches, it's BO5 the whole way in that tournament. So, like, in a way, that would actually be the best storyline, I think. If C9 completely shitstomps this America's Cup, then I'm hyped for the next split, mate. Now let's have Lyon maybe do, like, a tiny little upset in the first stand. Obviously, they're not going to win it or go deep. But, let's just give me, like, a game or two where Inspired does, like, a unique pick against some Korean player, or he does, like, some fucking genius Baron Steel or something. Give me something like that to hype me for the 2 teams. And then in spring, let's do it again.
Yes,
now,
sorry, just one final thing, Thorin. Just one final thing.
Okay.
Because this is exactly the big ploy here. But Team Liquid, we have Team Liquid. They are happy the C9 played the way they did, because now their performance, this split, is swept under the rug.
Right.
But considering their off-season, they got Quid, right? Eon and KJJ stayed. Yeah. It's like how terrible these guys are playing is crazy. It's crazy how bad they are. I just wanted to throw that in there. We had to add that.
I will say, I am actually shocked that Team Liquid just never, ever actually, like, came together as a team. Like, what's bizarre, bro, is it's not even like you look at their squad and go, this is just a shit roster of players. It isn't even. Like, by the way, the Joseph Yodo guy did have some games where he showed some potential. Like, I don't know that Morgan ever fully was what they hoped he would be. Like, they were hoping Morgan was going to be what, like, Saint is for Lyon. He's going to actually tear up the league. He didn't really do that. But even so, I know what you mean. That team, here's why I think that team's in a really tough spot, Yamato. Because if you look at the roster they have, you don't change any players. You just run it back with the same roster. But I know what you mean. If anything, Lyon's making them look good because of losing at that point. And remember, it was kind of a scuffed format anyways to who was in the lower bracket. I know what you mean. You can do Corp now. I'll tell you what we'll do. That's the last thing we'll say about LCS. If you are Team Liquid, we're putting an asterisk next to your name. But here's how it works. If you're shit in the next split, then the first split completely counts and there's no excuses. Like if you get it together and you're actually like a legit, not either third team or you're challenging Lyon and Cloud9, then we'll say fair enough, there was some weird shit in the last split. But I agree. I think this roster, I actually low-key thought they were going to sleep and be the best team. I'm actually shocked how irrelevant they were in the league.
Yeah, same, definitely. I thought they would do the River thing because that was my great speculation that River has one more year before he goes military. They're going to squeeze him in.
It would have been a spicy roster, for sure.
But Jose Diodo is definitely not the problem. Mr. Morgan, bro. It's crazy how many bro players are just all over the world scattered. You know, Hambak, and we have Hype over in Misa Esports, which is bro players are everywhere. They're just sleeper agents.
And it would also have been cool because then in that team, you'd have had like these duos that have played together. You'd have had the Yonkor, JJ, and the River. I agree that you just hit the ground running, surely, if you do that. But sadly, did not work. All right, well, if people next split do want to listen to us discuss the Cloud9 versus Lyon matchup, what would aid them in doing so?
Honestly, Thorin, the best way to do it would be with these Raycon Essential Open Earbuds. The fact that they're open is a very, very crucial detail. I think in terms of going to the gym, for me personally, I was using the bulky ones always to cover the ears. And I was always like very skeptical about like the noise cancellation of having open earbuds. But something that was always my issue is that you lay down, you do your bench, you do anything, and then something falls out, and then you're in this position. It's on the floor. You're scared that someone's going to step on your earbuds that cost money. With these, they stay in. They have these hooks on the back end that you hook them around the ear, which is very, very comfortable. They're very lightweight. This hook keeps them in place, which is super nice. And then in terms of how much you push them in, you can kind of choose, you can angle them. They're very, very flexible in how they work. Multi-point connection is super nice too, because I use them when I game on my PlayStation. I do my Arc Raiders runs with my boys. I connect them with my phone too at the same time. And honestly, I never need to think about charging them. Because if for some reason I get through the 36 hours of battery life these guys hold, then I could just charge them for a solid like 5-10 minutes, and then boom, they're ready to go for the next 3 hours, which is usually like I will go to the gym, I go to the shop, and I can dance for 30 minutes and they can still work, which is extremely, extremely impressive to me. Raycon has over 3 million customers, and the sound quality is just as good as the way more expensive brands. I think that's the detail there, is that they are half price in comparison to a lot of these, you know, celebrity endorsed brands and, you know, that retail markup stuff. And if you don't like them for any reason, you can, of course, use the 30-day guarantee. I've used them for a very long time. They have different products too, if you're interested in that. But nevertheless, the open earbuds are the ones that I'm using the most. They sent us these bone conduction headphones too, which I'm excited to try. But for now, I'm focused on the open earbuds because I have experience with them, but I'm super, super happy with them. So with that being said, the Essential Open Earbuds are perfect for refreshing your routine this spring. Go to buyraycon.com/LFNopen to get 20% off. Thanks to Raycon for sponsoring. Obviously, this message is sponsored by Raycon. Go buy them on raycon.com/LFNopen.
Right, let's go and talk about the LPL, Yamato, because I'll tell you what, if there's one thing that is a guaranteed delivery point of the LPL every single fucking split, it is actually always, no matter what you think from the early part of the split, it is always the most wide open region in the world. Like, because there's so much talent in the actual league. Like, bro, if I watched the JDG versus TES series. It was a nightmare. And if anything, I was like, look, JDG has been a flawed contender. TES shouldn't even be in the mix to even be in these fucking matches. So when they then go all 5 games, and I'm sorry if you saw that one, like, bro, that was one where JDG could have lost. The idea you come out of that, and then I think on paper the best team is anyone's legend. It maybe should be BLG, but for me, if I have to bet on a team, Yamato, I'm very confident betting on anyone's legend to win BO5 series. They're an excellent team that has so many strengths. The idea JDG beats them in a 5-game series is already an example of why this league is so fucking hard to predict. Like, it really is the ultimate league for like the bracket decides who wins, not like the fucking raw players alone. Like, what did you think about this? JDG, like, put it this way, it means we now have to have the conversation, which Nine Mira was always trying to put in, but I was holding it back, which is JDG could still fuck around and steal the league, mate. It's not impossible.
I just somehow, we were talking about MVPs. It just somehow has a way of, appearing. It's like we talked about the Tabe effect, and we were kind of like, oh, maybe just figure out the early game, putting things into place. But I do have to say that victory for JDG in particular, I do feel like their wins were massive draft victories. The prep work was super nice. I'm pulling up some of the work. We had like the Vi Galio Jax angle that they played. I also think that it's kind of similar to how suddenly D Plus and BFX played their best series ever. It's kind of these teams that can create advantages and then throw them away. They are in a very advantageous position because the enemy is at the mercy of their, stupidity. I feel like this is something we've seen happen globally because there's a box of a box we can put these teams in, whether it's Vitality, D+, BFX, and JDG. These are teams that threw their own leads after having very solid early games. And I have to say, in the victories here, JDG, now in the playoffs, they actually showcase discipline. Discipline that we didn't see all split long, and especially after the previous series that they played, I had very little hopes for them. But I think in terms of prep work and discipline, you could actually see the individual talent here. And I think a very big problem for AL is the moment Tarzan doesn't play like at 100%.
Yeah.
Like he can play at the 90. Then suddenly all of these other issues where I feel like everyone else on the team are very, very specific role players. And when they need to expand outside of that, especially in Fearless, it's kind of necessary that you should be capable of doing that. Then you begin to, it's like the Emperor's clothes, it's like you begin to see, because when AL play good and everything's around Tarzan and the draft is right, everything kind of just fits so seamlessly. It's very easy to buy into that and think, damn, this is a team that is going to win the league. But the moment the spotlight kind of shines on the other players, then everything kind of shifts and you can see the limitation of the individual. And I did think that even though Tarzan, I think, as MVP of the league for me, I do think this was a series where he didn't play at 100 and you could see the flaws come through almost right away.
Doesn't that Game 5 trundle, that's some night. If you're a Tarzan fan, that's a nightmare fuel, because we've even been down this road before, me. I know what you mean. This is the sad thing. It's going to sound mad because obviously he didn't play his best series, but I know what you mean. I feel like he is asked to do more than almost any other top player in League of Legends, bro, because essentially every other week we're glazing him as like a 10 out of 10 jungler, maybe the best in the whole world, and his team isn't like beating everyone by massive margins. They're just the best team in the LPL. I know what you mean. If he's not ever allowed to have an off day, mate. It's like if he ever has a game like this Game 5 on the trundle, it's just over. You just lose the game outright. It's why, unfortunately, even though I always point out that his team could win Worlds in MSI, I don't know that they will, though, unfortunately.
The sad part is it's so similar to, like, because everyone kind of walks out of that series like, why the hell did they pick Trundle for him? Why didn't they pick a carry? It's like Fearless Game 5. You're very limited. It's the same when he dropped the Sejuani, right?
Yep.
It's like even in that game where he played Sejuani, or even in the Trundle, like here he invaded, he caught Kha'Zix, but then it's like he's playing Trundle against Aphelios, Thresh, Twisted Fate, Gwen, and Kha'Zix. That is like a draft that is designed to make the Trundle miserable. And in the end, here, AL in their spot, they had Cassia as an answer into TF, didn't punish enough, and they blind picked Kesante. Like they tried to hard force kind of the same mold. And in reality, I think if the enemy shows Aphelios Thresh like that, you need to be willing to just slam the Jinx and contest and hope that the Hope Jinx kind of works out. But instead, they picked the Cassandra because they were worried about top and they didn't feel comfortable with the supers they could pair with Jinx. But that's the beautiful thing about Tabe. Tabe knows you guys, and you need to kind of develop new tools. And you have brought over Helper from Gen G, which, of course, on paper seems fucking fantastic. But Gen G's drafting, that's not going to help you. You guys are the opposite of Gen G in terms of your strengths. You don't have the individual firepower, whereas like Helper's on stage, like, oh, well, Chovy would pick this, and he would do this. It's like, bro, that's not helpful. That doesn't help anybody. I think this was a massive win for Tabe just in the prep department, because I do think that he was very, very in tune of where AL was weak and how to kind of funnel them into those positions where Tarzan would be less effective.
And if you saw last year's IG, it won't be a surprise to you that, like, on his day, Gala can be one of the absolute best fucking LPL players, mate. Like, he was the guy in this series who was just having some Smurf games, mate. And also, even better, like, his actual Aphelios is back. This guy used to be one of the I always thought him and Light were like the two underrated players on this champion. They were both mega on it. Like, he's just a fucking top player. Like, it's why actually it's a shrewd pickup to gamble on him this year with JDG. Like, he can be an ADC that hits those highs.
Oh, it's a very cool roster, honestly. It's like the LCP died for it, but it's a very, very like dynamic and explosive roster. It was weird to hear the rumors about the potential Junja replacement. Like obviously LPL is known to just make those changes, but it's cool to see him also ramp up. You know, especially like the series before when he played that Kiana in the game 5. That was vicious. So it's cool to see this team also falling into place, because it's kind of increasing my excitement for the LPL again. Like Billy ramping up, JDG ramping up. Like that makes this final bracket like super interesting.
And then obviously elsewhere, like, bro, the one that I can't handle still is there's something. I was trying to make this point to Nymera. Even though individually Zhao, who hasn't been very good this split, I actually think this might be his worst year in like probably since the beginning of his career, mate. Like individually, just doesn't look that good in any respect in lane, in fights. But I'll tell you what, there's something about his teams, bro, that's actually underrated in like playoff settings. They're so scrappy. They're so hard to actually just beat in a BO5. Like you see it here. Like on the one hand, if you're bad, they can just beat you. But mate, BLG, if anything, I actually think that's a statement that BLG beat them so convincingly, because as you see elsewhere, put it this way, this match is coming up later this week. I predict that Weibo Gaming is like probably going to win games in this series. They're not just going to get 3-0 by anyone's legend. There's something about that squad where they can just like compete in matches. I don't know what it is. There's something bizarre about them, mate.
Oh, they just don't seem soft at all. Like it's sometimes we've had so many Weibo variants with Jahu where game 1 just looks so terrible, and it's like, oh, they should just lose the series, and then they just shake it off so quickly. There's something about their resilience and how they kind of match up to the opponent in a strange way, because we get to see them play very dirty games, like the 3-0 they did against I'm forgetting who. I'm scrolling up. Weibo
IG.
Against the Weibo IG series was the worst 3-0 I've seen in a long time. There is something to the essence of them really matching up to their opponent, and I do think that AL has showcased now that they can definitely stumble upon themselves. It's like
so if the producer put it on screen now, if there's actually a poly market for this match, because obviously played in like 2 days, and basically at the moment Weibo's all the way down. The percentage chance to win according to the trades on Polybag is only 23%. But I'll tell you what, mate, if I look at the way that the split's gone so far, look, I do think anyone's legend should win. They're a much better team. But I'll tell you what, that's actually, I sort of can see those odds, mate. Like, that's kind of a bit of a weird one for me. I could see a world where, like, pretty sweet. If they win, though, it's going to be 3-2. That's just how Weibo rolls, mate. But they can make the series messy.
Oh, for sure. I think the biggest, like, surprise is just their support. Like, Erha, whatever you want to call him, JJ and Erha, like if there was a jungle support duo that could potentially contest what AL do, it's these guys. Like I think JJ has been phenomenal in those series where they were very scrappy and ugly, specifically because I think like L kind of underperformed and like overreached and played like very silly. There were moments where they just didn't connect as a team. JJ was holding down the fort. That's always going to remain a mystery for us, like why he was dismissed from IG and they brought in Wei, because JJ is a top level player and he still has it. I think JJ and Erha definitely can make it very scrappy and interesting, and Jahu's experience seems to shine through, because we've made that comparison in the past, but in terms of his kind of presence in games is very similar to how kind of Faker acts in the LCK when it comes to the playoffs, where he has a presence and he finds the angles. He's willing to like pick the champion to sacrifice. He's willing to play something for the first time in like months and years sometimes just to make the draft work. It seems like he is the type of player to definitely like raise the floor of the team and give them direction, because many versions of Weibo have had like very, very good macro, even though sometimes they've lacked the firepower. But this is a team that has firepower, especially with Zika in the top lane. That isn't like someone that you can just brush off.
I'll give you a sports anecdote that this reminds me of, because I actually agree. It's funny that we all still do like individual player analysis on Faker and Yahoo, where we just go like, oh, the champion pool's a bit limited. But I also agree with what you just said. I think also they sometimes willingly take the L on their champion just to give, like, for example, one of their other teammates like a comp that they know can work, or to work synergize with their pick, for example, if the other teammate has a limited. I'll give you a sports analogy, right? In the NBA, a bit like many sports like the NHL, it has that problem, right? Which is at the beginning of its history, the person who won the most championships was at the beginning. And so that makes you think, oh, it's because it's really outdated and the game wasn't developed, So in the NBA, if people don't know, the person who has the most championship rings is actually a player called Bill Russell from the 1950s and 60s. And he played in the original Boston Celtics. And the problem this guy has, right, is the reason no one calls him the GOAT of basketball is because you can argue at times he might not even have been the best player on his team. And his style was more like team focused as opposed to like individual stats. In fact, in his era, there was a player who was the individual stats player, which is a guy called Wilt Chamberlain. But there's a cool story that I have. And if you know this story, you'll see what I think great captains like Xiaohu and Faker definitely do in the modern day, which the story goes that at one point in Bill Russell's career, there was like a young up and coming player, who was a guy called Tommy Heinsohn, who was just like a pure shooter. He was the kind of person where if you just give them like the ball open, they'll make the shot, right? And so what happened was this guy, though, was like a younger player compared to Bill Russell. And Bill Russell was worried that this guy was like nervous going into some of the matches. So I think this is before like an NBA finals or something. Bill Russell basically went to him and said to him, because Bill Russell's strength was like he was a defensive player and like one of the better players in the league. He said to this young player, basically, don't worry about getting any rebounds. Like as soon as they miss, you just run and get in position where you want to take a shot, and we'll get you the ball. And all you're going to worry about in this game basically is your strength. You're just going to hit the shots when we hit you with the ball and when you're open. And essentially, the reason this is a gangster story is because I don't think fans would understand. No, you can't do that. Like, no, there's no great player going, wait, I'll just take some of the shit off your player and worry about that. And then I'll make it. Normally, a great player goes, I'm going to play my game, keep up. You do your job and help me win. What's a unique in this case is this is a great player realizing that I can cover some of your weakness. And in doing so, make your game just an upside. Like, we're only going to get positives from that. And maybe actually that's where we win the series. Because in the other analysis, if we'd lost the series, we'd look at someone like the inexperienced player and go, you're the one who cost us the series. Well, in this analogy, I do think Faker and Xiaohu do that, mate. That's one of the reasons why both of them also have the same exact thing you're talking about. First of all, notice they're pretty much always all at Worlds. These are mixed Worlds, no matter how their team plays in the other, they're always at fucking Worlds. And as we're talking about here, even in the playoffs, mate, it's really hard to eliminate these guys. Like, even every series, they're going to get you a game. They're going to fucking make it snappy. If you show any weakness, they're going to be right back in there. I do think they have like an intuitive understanding of how to play a league that is team focused more than what I like, which is like you're just the individual superstar, some list guy. Like, get the fuck out of my way, give me the ball. That's why I always tell people it's not a diss to Faker when I say Xiaohu's a bit like Faker. I actually think they both in their regions have some special quality as captains that other players just don't have. Like, put it this way, I'll give you a fair contrast. I love my boy Rookie, but he's still trying to play like he's the best player in the world, mate. He never got the memo that eventually you can use your strengths to like aid the top laner or the jungler or something like that. He just still plays for himself and tries to carry the game and be the. And if Rookie ever wins the LPL because he's the best player, it won't be because he's in some cool squad where he's making it work like you've seen from Faker and Xiaohu.
Agreed. Now, are we talking about IG or we just accept?
Because here's the thing, they are done now. This is it. It's all good. They're dead. They're dead and buried. They're gone. We've said this in the past, mate. I'm sorry. The real problem with this roster is this. Normally, when I look at a roster, I'd say things like this player needs to get better in this regard and that. Look, we teased it on past episodes. The implication is because of how the LPL auction thing worked in the offseason, which held up a lot of the splits, the rosters, sorry. And then also the fact that famously a lot of LPL players are kind of on the Uzi eye shit. They don't think the first split counts that much, mate. A lot of them do think you can come back in split 2, basically, and you can find a team and you can still get ready and you can go to MSI, you can go to Worlds. What do we really care about? Clearly, you don't care. No one really at the moment cares that much about first stand. And so I actually do think if you look at this roster, it sounds cynical, but I absolutely am already thinking you've got to make a roster move if you can. Like, if any of those players, like, there's some good players out there. There is Jackie Loves of the world, mates, out there. Tian, like, real players that can be, like, if not the best, they can at least be, like, content. If any of these players are available, if you're IG, surely you should be aggressively going after them because this split, especially how it ended, bro, was nothing. Like, true, you could say the same thing again if, like, no one expected anyone's legend to be down the low bracket solely. But even so, mate, you would have lost in the next round no matter what anyway. In fact, I'd even argue What, JDG wouldn't have beat you? JDG would have still beat that ass too. Like, it wouldn't even have mattered. So if you're IG, I'm sorry. If I look at this roster, I don't believe in growth for this roster. It has to just be a roster move for me.
I'm with you 100%. Like Subaru, G-Way, Way, and Photic. Like Photic today, when he had like positions to carry with Yonara, you just don't buy it. Like there is nothing of substance there. Like anything that requires him to basic attack is just something that you don't trust him on. I don't understand how Rookie ends up in a team with him again after giving him a career, because I still get people coming into my stream. It's like, wasn't Photic good? It's like, yeah, for one split, in V5 played Senna and Lucian. Like that was ages ago. I saw Photic played together with, of course, Rookie on NIP, and I thought he was a big ass problem. Photic was the one who brought lane swaps to the world.
Yep.
Like that. I think he just wants us
the notorious game that caused the whole G2 BDS. Did they leak the lane swap? Was because of that nip game. Yeah.
Fucking Photic. He just causing damage out here. I'm with you. Like IG. If they make a similar roster to last year, I'm very happy. Just get our old guns in there. The shy, like Rookie, just bring him back somehow. Bring him back, put him top lane. Jackie Love. I am down to have that roster play again. I don't know how the dynamic is, because like some of these players, like Jackie Love Tian, Jackie Love Mako, like they played with each other and it didn't seem to end good. So I don't know what the dynamic is there. But I would be very happy to see the regular suspects there, because like if Rookie's gonna go through this entire year playing with this roster and have zero chances of going to the World Championship, like at some point Rookie's gonna just say, yo, it's time for me to retire, spend time with my wife and to enjoy all the money I hopefully made, because if not, I'd be very this is some Sisyphus shit, like if we're just pushing a rock if it didn't make a lot of money.
And also, it's not even copium. Like, the difference is, I said earlier about Weibo, like, it doesn't matter how good Weibo's doing. Xiaohu himself is individually not particularly impressive. Rookie's not even that bad still, mate. Like, he still puts in, like, it feels like every other series, he actually has a good series. It's just the problem is at the moment, him having a good series, he cannot win the BO5. It's not enough.
I was romancing the idea of, like, imagine Rookie would just be on AL. Rookie would be on Weibo. Like, I would be so much more comfortable and excited.
No, it's why I actually do low-key agree now. Sadly, this has been a trend of a lot of my favourite players, unfortunately. A lot of my favourite players individually are some of the best of all time, but some of them have really bad decision-making in, like, what team to join or what teammate to work with or when to sort of make the demand and when not to, So, unfortunately, Rookie definitely fits that bill. It's kind of a bit sad in that respect. But whatever.
Yes,
it's all done now. Right, going forwards, though, this is where it starts to get spicy, though, because earlier in the split, I would take this BLG JDG series and I'd go, you know what, easy. This is like a 3-0, 3-1. Like, maybe JDG can get the shit together for like 1-2 games. There's no way they can win this series. I have to actually go into this in an open mind now, bro. There's like a very real possibility. Because the key thing for me is this. I do think BLG are a pretty known quantity. I know how they're going to play. I know who they're going to play through. I even could probably guess half the fucking picks, mate. The problem is, though, I think JDG are so hard to predict how they play in a game, mate. Like, this is the biggest up and down, the most like fucking night and you call them Jekyll and Hyde in English. We say like a Jekyll and Hyde. It's so hard to know, even in a series from game to game. Like, what is your thoughts on this match? Who do you like? Do you have BLG favored? Is BLG going to win this upper bracket?
I have, like, in my mind, even when Bilibili were playing bad in the regular split, a part of me was always thinking that Bilibili would just come back and win it all. I think there is an element there where Bilibili can look and sure, in the regular split they lost to JDG, right? It's like it's one of those things where if you know for granted you're gonna qualify and be in the upper bracket because basically like top 8 makes it, right? And there was always an upper bracket and there's no downside to you being like a lower seed. I always had the faith that Bilibili would just get it together. And I feel like in the series that they played on a mechanical level, some shit that they do, whether it's Viper or On, when they're like sharp, they are very, very sharp. I think that Bin hasn't shown me the magic just yet. I think Shun and Knight were good in the regular split even, but the fact that the bot lane is playing in a meta which is extremely lane-centric, because a lot of people think about On as the engage guy, but in the first run of Bilibili when Taba was on the team, he was the best range support player. Like when it came to the lane, it was specifically Bilibili, like obviously Missing and Ruler, they played the style where they played like Jinx, Rakan blind in a weak matchup and would just still win it somehow. That was their magic. But what Bilibili did so well, if I can, with a time machine, bring people back to the series they beat T1 with, where they just dove them. That was him playing Lulu. Like he was playing Lulu, just laning like a beast and just winning the matchup. The fact that everything is so lane-centric now in the current meta, where we see Ash Seraphine being played, Lulu, Kama, Nico, I think that On is in a very, very comfortable spot, especially with a player like Viper, because when he's sharp, I think that he's quite flawless. I think that Vampire has potential, but he still has ways to go. And I think just because of that element of Bilibili, I think that they are very strong against the chaos that JDG can present, because Bilibili they don't run from a fight. They stand their ground and they fight back. And I do think when those clashes happen, I expect Bilibili to just be better. But I do think that Tabe can find some draft wins. Sometimes Bilibili are a little bit sloppy in how they approach the draft. I could imagine, like, if I had to predict it right now, like a 3-1 Bilibili, but I think BLG just looks like a clear favorite to me to win it all. And I think that just On and Viper, the way they play is just so damn good. And Knight Forever will just be such a big advantage against any mid laner. I think that Honkyu is a very strong mechanical player, but the devil is in the details. I think experience is king when it comes to mid lane, and Knight also offers that same level of mechanical skill. But Tabe needs to do some heavy lifting here if JDG is going to win it.
There's a reason why I think domestically you almost can't over-exaggerate how good Knight and Chovy are, because, bro, they are the ultimate players where you just look at them and you're like, you can win a game against them, but good luck winning 3 out of 5 against these guys. Like, they just don't have series like that, mate. You know what I mean? People have beaten them, but even so, they're going to bring the fucking heat. And Knight is still like that, because I still think if you look at BLG, the roster still has never truly been what it is on paper. Like, it still has its flaws and its moments where, like, people individually are good, but they don't work together as well. Like, I actually think the real hard thing about this split for me is, if I look at I'm sorry, I think Weibo Gaming are going to lose to Anyone's Legend. So once we have the top 3, which is the big 3 names anyway, like, bro, I think it's all about this upper bracket match. Because if JDG beats BLG, I actually think JDG can just win the league completely, mate. Like, they've already beaten Anyone's Legend. They'll have beaten everyone at that point in time. They've shown, like, yes, up and down performance, but they clearly on their day can do it. And obviously this was the team that did beat BLG in the regular split. Meanwhile, if BLG wins, what's funny is that's where the bomber for Anyone's Legend is. You might have to rematch JDG, because that's the team that I'm worried about. The funny thing is, if it was Anyone Legend directly against BLG, I actually think Anyone's Legend can win. I think that's actually the one team that, like, their strengths really match up against. So this is going to be a crazy end to the split, bro. Like, it's funny, if you notice though, the LPL always starts this way. Maybe by summer you have a set team that should be the best and they'll win, but mate, it always starts with, like, the first playoffs are always like a crapshoot. You can never really tell how it's going to go. And this is also the league where you will never get a league where when you do the whole bracket at the beginning of the playoffs, you can never really do a pencil in all the wins, mate, and have it ever go like, never ever in your life will it go like. There'll always be that one crazy 3-2 upset. Almost was TES that did it this time. You can argue JDG did do it already. So here's my question. We did it all the past episodes. Has it changed who wins the LPL as of today? As of this moment, it's obviously it's Tuesday at the moment, Tuesday the 3rd. Who wins the LPL as of today, Yamato?
BLG. I'm gonna stand firm on that. I think BLG. I think that everything we've seen ever since the last time we had the conversation have just improved that conversation. Just because specifically with AL also performing worse. AL dropped a game against IG, for example. They are missing some of that. Flair that they had last year. Even though last year there were periods when they also underperformed, I do think that I don't trust AL to bring that strategic edge outside of the game before the game starts, like they had previously. So for me, everything that we've seen so far has increased the chances for me with Bilibili, because I agree with you fully. I think a good AL is a team that can beat a Bilibili, but I think a good JDG is just kind of, you're fighting fire with fire here, and Bilibili just have the biggest fire.
No, that's also my problem, Yamato, is my heart says it should be anyone's legend, because I think if they play their peak game, it's beautiful. League of Legends, it makes so much sense. There's like a layering to it. They go through stages of the game. Also, I also generally, I have a bias in the modern day. I used to be biased to laners. In the modern day, I'm kind of biased to like amazing jungle and support duos. I think it's like a mad underrated part of the game. The problem is, though, it's a bit like when we do the LEC one. In the LEC, you can say everything you like about KC and how they play and will MCOY style work, but if at the end of the equation, it's like, yeah, but Caps plays 9 out of 10 League of Legends, then you lose because it's Caps. So unfortunately, I know what you mean. You always have the biggest nuke in the silo if you're BLG, which is we have Night Bro. Like, if Night actually just decides on game 3 of the series when it's 1-1 and your jungler's doing all this amazing stuff and your support's playing so great, but then he just decides to carry the fuck out of a team fight, then the game's over. Like, you just don't get a win. I'm sorry. And that's why that tweet that someone made, I can't remember if it was Cobby or someone made it, but like, it is true. We're back to the thing where in the modern day, we have a version of the guys who run the league. You know, back in the day, the LCS used to be run by Expecate or Perks or someone. Or you go in the LCS, it was obviously Bjergsen, wasn't it? And then it was Faker in Korea. And then you have, it depends what era, you could say Zhao Hu or something. Now we actually do again in all the regions. We just have one player who runs every region, mate. And in this region, I'm sorry, it's Knight. Knight is the player who runs the LPL. In fact, you even go look at the years he lost. Most of the times, it's not even him, bro. It's some of his teammates. Like, there's a reason why, just like those other players we're referencing, Chovy and Korea, the minimum for these guys is you make the final. Then they wonder, do I get to win this one or not? Like, that's the level, that's the world they live in, bro. The rest of us are like, it'd be great to have an awesome split and make the final. Then imagine what's possible. For them, the baseline is to make the final. That's like another day at the office. So at this point, but it's weird. The most shocking result of all to me would be BLG somehow goes out third here. Like, even if they lose, surely they're at least in the final. I know what you mean, especially in the LPL. It's one reason I'll always have a lot of affection for the LPL. I do think the LPL on some level is still about player strength. Like, if you have the hardest hitter, like in this case from mid lane, that can win you a lot of fucking matches, mate. So if you're Shanks, listen, mate, you could do everything to win this fucking league and come on, do an awesome job. The problem is I can bet on Knight a lot easier. So I'm with you. Low key, I'm still biased towards BLG.
Yeah,
but I'm also glad that it's a region, though, where you get the two teams, though. Whichever of these you'd send could be fucking amazing. It could be dope.
Yeah, we went from having the conversation like weeks ago about, with the state of LPL currently, maybe the West can win a game. Yep. It's like, it doesn't look like it.
Would look with the top
three, I think that the top 3 right now is gonna like.
Let me ask you a rude question. Let's not even get into the fit, bro. I'm gonna ask a really rude. I'm gonna put my LS of 5 years ago cap on. If you remember the shit he used to say, mate, I low key actually think a lot of the Western teams would struggle with Weibo. Like, as we said earlier, to a fan, you're going to look and you're going to go, but they're not even going to win the league. Bro, as we said earlier, mate, first of all, their bot lane, I think that would be better than any bot lane in the West. I'm sorry, I'm not even hating. Like, Elks looked mega, and the Air guys been like a revelation this year. You look at their squad in general, look, here's the difference. Maybe some of the Western teams could match up mid lane wise. I could believe Caps could have a better game. I could believe in Saint could get his hands in a match and get a fucking solo kill. But would they win the BO5? I don't know. I think it'd be hard. I think it'd be fucking hard work, mate.
I think like G2 versus Weibo would be like insanely competitive for sure. I think Weibo. I think some of the problems that Weibo shows aren't going to be as easily exposed. In my mind, but there's so many dynamics at play. Like, do we get to see the G2 prep work engine? You know, like are they playing tomorrow?
True.
I do think. Maybe like I would give a slight edge to G2, but just a slight edge when people would assume that Weibo would just like get washed based on what we see. It's just once again, like as you mentioned, it's like the individual power here is really, really sharp. And I do think that the team fighting around Drake, like some of the mistakes on Hansama and Labrov and sometimes even BB, I do think that Skymond and Caps in their position are like elite. Like I think coming into the tournament right now, like Skymond, I think Skymond and Caps, if I just, for me, they are top 5 in their position globally right now. Like I can say that without a doubt. But then the flaws of the other 3 is like Hansama, Lavrov, BB. Some of these mistakes that you can't do against an Elk. Like you're not allowed to do some of these mistakes against these guys. So that's where, as a team, they can falter against Weibo. But Caps and Skymon, these are guys, if the draft is about them, I think they can compete against the best with their form. Because I've been so impressed with them, but more on that when we get to the LEC.
Also, by the way, one thing about Weibo that I will always make me interested in their team as well is I have always thought that guy Zika, the former LNG top laner from that 2023 JDG run when he was the one, bro, he's just a talent. He's just a really good player. Yeah, he's never going to be the best, but like, mate, he's always up there. Like, this guy just seems to actually have like a pretty good floor to his game if you look over the years.
I feel like it's kind of like a Kingen type character. I feel like, it's like very, very similar. Is going to be able to hang with the best, and I think he's just been on some very, very like bad rosters. But then sometimes you watch him play, and like, oh, well, it's this guy. Why am I surprised that he's performing here? So definitely, I thought Zika is very, very solid.
Yes. No, agreed, absolutely. Okay, right. Well, there is one thing actually in League of Legends that is underrated, which is in League of Legends, obviously everyone gets all salty, don't they? They just go, I'm hating on this angle. But believe it or not, salt is actually important for you. In fact, if you go and expand it wider out, obviously, if people don't know, an actual underrated thing people don't appreciate for their health is that you actually do need to have electrolytes. One thing is, this is one thing I actually didn't understand. I'll just fully admit it, but I'm not one of these people who pretends to know everything in the world. I think something like 5-10 years ago, I actually genuinely thought that thing of like, that all you need to do is drink water and that you just, because remember, there's that favorite thing people go, you drink 8 glasses of water a day. But what you actually learn if you drink loads of water is eventually it actually goes through a threshold where it becomes even potentially negative and it actually doesn't refresh you. It doesn't give you the energy back. You don't feel better. By the way, anyone who's ever been to the gym, if you go to the gym with just a massive bottle full of water, you are in for a bad time. I can tell you, if I ever go to the gym with water, bro, I feel like bloated. When I'm sipping it even, I feel like I can feel it like almost like wriggling around inside me as I'm fucking working out. And then if you're going to do something, by the way, like the leg press, you're going to have your belly full of water. It's going to be really uncomfortable. What you actually want to do for real, I can tell you I do this myself, is using our sponsor Drip Drop. You want to get some electrolyte drinks. And what you do is when I go to the gym, I don't take water, I take an electrolyte drink. And what I do is I just sip it between sets. And I find that does give me like, gradually I get that feeling of like replenishment. I can keep going. I don't feel dehydrated. And also I actually feel like it does afterwards give me that feeling of like relief of like, right, the workout's over now. So I think that I've just tried these Drip Drop flavors out. They're actually pretty banging. Like one thing I have to say I really enjoyed about them is they're not trying to do that approach where if you think of certain other drink brands in America, for example, a lot of them go really hard with the flavor, mate. They try to make it like almost like some candy shit where it's like mad over the top chemical flavor. What I actually like about these flavors is I think they're actually quite understated, but in a way that I think is appropriate if you're going to do things like try and hydrate yourself and do more performance in your work and be at the gym. You don't want any weird thing distracting you. So if people don't know, Drip Drop works with what's called doctor developed proven fast hydration, where it's actually intentionally made so that you will feel the results fast, even though you will get 3 times more electrolytes than the leading sports drinks. And apparently already loads of like top sports and college teams use this. They have the zero sugar plus. So if you're someone like me where I do keto and I don't actually like to have like sugary drinks, and that's not the mode I'm going for, I do based off fat burning. It's also got one where there's like 0 sugar in whatsoever, even though it has like 6 key electrolytes, 15 essential vitamins and nutrients, but no artificial sweeteners or sugars. That's also why, like I say, it's not some like crazy profile. It's just a nice one. It's just a nice understated one that I would say at worst is inoffensive and I actually just find nice. Like actually, when I work out, I want the flavor to be a bit understated because I'm just gradually taking it in and it's sort of like setting my ambience up. There's also 16 different flavors and 8 sugar-free options. So it's not like there's just one sugar-free one and you're just stuck with that flavor if you don't like that one. There's loads no matter what type of diet or exercise you're on. So right now, Drip Drop is offering our podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Just go to dripdrop.com and use promo code summoning. That's dripdrop.com, promo code summoning for 20% off at their website. So stock up now and use promo code summoning. As I say, I like to use it for the gym personally. Also, when I do work like this, it's starting to get a bit warmer where I am in Europe. It's gone up from being cold. Soon it's going to be those days where it's nice and warm and you're going out and you're sweating and stuff. It's also a good way to just replenish during the day. Because as I say, while it is important to drink water, why not make that water better and hydrate you even better, 3 times better in this case with Drip Drop. Shout out to Drip Drop. Okay, let us go over and talk about the wonderful LCK. Because you know what, Yamato, sadly, this whole section isn't going to be that much about the final because, as I pointed out in the last episode, listen, FearX did an unbelievable job to even get to this point in the tournament, mate. I did also personally think they would be better than D+, just I watched the whole split, but the problem was, I think this isn't even a diss to FearX. I don't know how they could have won this, mate. Like, this is why I want to make this point to people, because spoiler, buckle in. This is going to be the usual Gen G / Shorvy Glaze session. Because we have to, mate. Like, this final was an example of why. Like, bro, the reason why everyone who doesn't watch the LCK are going to think every single year, it's going to happen this year and probably for the next 3 or 4 years, you're going to think every year, we must be overrating this Chovy guy. There's no way he's that good. Bro, you have to watch these domestic matches, because in the domestic play, like, I'll just say this, mate. Domestically, he's already better than Faker as far as I'm concerned. Like, I've never seen someone year after year do this. It's just impossible. Even this split where he started a bit slower and he was having some dodgier matches early on, doesn't matter. By the end, you can't do shit against this guy. It's impossible. You can't play against him. And so, as a team, I do think this core is like the greatest roster that I've ever seen play League. Like, not just specific days like in a world split, but if you were to say for a 3-month span, which team do you want? I'm taking this Gen G, mate. They're unbeatable. It feels like to even get them to a game 5 is a fucking miracle. Never mind beat them. Like, I have put zero blame on FearX's side for this final bit. Like, when I was watching, I was just thinking, like, fuck, in low key, this is why I do need there to be a really good team on a Hand of Life, because otherwise it makes it look easy when they win the league. Like, it's just the team's too fucking good. Yamato, what do you think of this final?
No, it's like the way we felt about BFX heading into that same feeling would be shared by practically every other team in the entire world. Just hopeless. It's just so hard to define what Gen G's actual weakness is. And I just think on an individual level, this is just a superstar roster. And then it's like every time you deal with one dragon head, there's another 4, because it's like Duro on the team is also really damn good. You have all these classic champions that just make an appearance in a Fearless. It's like seamlessly they also are so good at playing specific roles for one another. Because it's like Chovy can slam a fantastic Galio game into Aurora, into an Azir, into an Orianna, and Keen can play the best Kisante in the league and at the same time be the one that is the scariest on Gwen and Ambessa. And the same thing is true for Ruler too. He can play a mean Jhin, probably the only person that has a positive win ratio on Jhin throughout the split, and at the same time could just pull off a Jinx in a tough matchup and just win it because, yeah, we remember this is the best Jinx in the world. It's just really, really unfair. And I'm with you. I think if HLE and T1 need to be the rosters and the teams that find specific pockets where they operate better, because Gen G is so good at everything, but they perform at like 97% on everything, which is really, really damn impressive, because in that you also have like best performance possible just lurking on an individual level, but then there's on a team play level. I think that when T1 was the most competitive against Gen G is because they were very specialized in something, whether it was like Drake setups, that was like their thing, while Gen G plays a more fluid game where they kind of adjust based on the information and play every situation optimized, rather than a team that is like, okay, we're going to be the best at this, we're going to draft towards this, similar to how KT and T1 were the previous year, where everyone had kind of a role and they kind of leaned into that heavily, which made them better at only one thing. And until that happens, I don't see how Gen G is ever going to lose. It's like Billy, even though we love that roster on an individual level, in terms of where the team play is at, it's like Gen G has so many years under their belt of good resistance and also growth with the core, while Billy has had many periods where they just didn't perform. They had the whole last year with the whole jungle boogaloo situation that they did, like where they swapped a jungle out every other week, depending on where the issues were. Like, they didn't have like that steady trajectory of build up and getting better and better. And the only thing that removed us from this dream-like team that is just impossible to break is one series that they lost against KT, while otherwise they were close to perfect.
By the way, speaking of BLG, if you're Diablo, I tell you who you call right now, Viper. He's been in this spot, mate. It doesn't matter how good you are if you're an ADC, you're playing Gen G. Spoiler, you're not even going to get in the game. But the game's over long before you ever get to a team fight, mate. Like, if I'm Diablo, I'm like, what more? What am I? Because, by the way, he has been like one of the absolute breakout players of the fucking year so far. He's looked insane. Like, he's been an MVP candidate, but there's nothing you can do with this final, mate. You sure? I don't even know that Ruler was that much better than you, but it doesn't matter. His team slaps the shit out of yours.
It's like we were talking about Canyon being like a quiet player, and then he just walks up and steals every objective, smites every objective. After Raptor, a player that did it against somebody else, that did it against Owner, like it's just Canyon can just have that series in the back pocket. That's why we appreciate the longevity of players that can play at the top, because they have that credit. They have that credit where they would have to be bad for such a long time before I stop believing in them. And I feel like you're the same. We appreciate that because there's a small batch of players that have the longevity, and they always end up in the top three. In very different ways. We mentioned Xiaohu and Faker earlier, but they find a way to always be there. And somehow Genji, it's like this roster building is at the same level of like G2 2019 roster building, where it's just should be an impossibility, but somehow it has just happened and stayed together, which is extremely impressive, because usually something fucks it up.
You said it earlier, bro. I still think the craziest part, there's a term in English, okay, called found money, Yamato. It's the idea that if you just find money on the floor, it's free. You just get it with no work. You just pick it up. Oh, wow. All I have to do is literally reach over and pick it up. Bro, Duro has to be that. When they even made this roster at the beginning of last year, you looked at it and you were like, holy fuck, 4 of these names could be like the goats of their position, like Hall of Fame roster. But then you're like, but at the same time, if this Duro guy who's not as experienced, if he doesn't play well, that could actually be sort of like the negative that brings the whole team down. Unironically, and this statement, by the way, this could be on my hot take show, but I think it's just real. If I actually look at this team, Yamato, the entire team, the time they've had this 5-man roster, I think the best players, Chovy, second best players, I think Theoro's the third best player on this team the whole time they've had him. Yes, Ruler had moments he went up. Canyon, I think most of the time, has just been fucking chilling, living off his name. Like, bro, the Duro guy's actually low key. The idea that basically, certain splits, I'm going to say Kerry is the best support. First of all, this guy has been contending and might even have been the best support at times last year. And if his only competition is Carrier, bro, that's supposed to be the most OP player position for position in the world. Like, the idea that even Duro is mega, that's why this team is just too OP. I mean, we're basically talking here about the fact that you've got a team, think about this statement in history. You've got a team where there are matches where Canyon and Ruler can just chill and other people will carry the game. Like, what? No wonder it's the most OP team ever. It's why I say, look, I don't know if you put them in the pressure of a world final, will they win it? Maybe they won't. But if you just give them an entire split, though, good luck beating this team in a split. I'd love to see any team in history come and play this side. Even my favourite JDG 2023. Look, they'd also have Rulers. It'd be a mirror matchup. But I don't even know that you would win either, because here's the difference. If they were playing against you, would you even get into those team fights? Wouldn't they just fucking crush you in the lanes, objective control, side lane the shit out of you, and then you wouldn't even get to those brilliant 5v5. So, like, I don't even think it's glazing, mate. This really just is one of the most bonkers teams to ever play League. And it's not, and by the way, Fear X is not even an unworthy finalist. They were good. They definitely were good.
No, I agree. I like the take as well of putting Duro third. We had periods where Ruler was underperforming, periods where Canyon was underperforming big time too. I think that the coolest thing about Duro was we had game 5s against T1 where he slammed Pike and he slammed Blitzcrank and like carried the game. That is really, really badass in my mind. That is
game 1. He's picking Bard in this series. This guy has some balls on him, mate.
He just has such a wide range of play. Like we don't typecast him in any way. Like he's just ready to do it all. And I have to say as well, when it comes to Gen G, it's like they also brought in Delight and they put together the Delight Peanut combo, and now Delight without Peanut is definitely like struggling. Is not the same player. There's something in Gen G and them finding the next supports, which has been like a very big problem for Korea for the longest time, especially in that period where they were losing to the LPL. It was just like, oh, Mata is retiring. Who else is gonna step up to the plate? Eventually, we got Keria in a small period of battle that gets overrated because we were there watching the series that Damwon lost in 2021 when Canyon and Showmaker were as good as they were, and Beryl was not playing well. We were there. We don't overrate that period, but LCK support has been a rough point, and Genji has found diamonds.
Right, what about that thing I said earlier, right? Ignore world's accomplishments and total resume. We're just looking at a level of play. What if at this point in time, I'm not even being greedy. I'm not even taking the Griffin days and DRX. And if you just take from when Chovy arrived in Gen G and in 2022 he started winning, bro, if he keeps doing it this year, it's going to be like a solid 5 or 6 years in a row of just being like the best mid laner in Korea, aka the best player in the world, basically. Like, it's a totally legitimate statement. So in terms of raw play, where are you at on that one? Like, put it this way, I'll give you the quick analogy. In Counter-Strike, this is a really frustrating conversation for a lot of fans because they watch this guy Zebu, who at the moment's the best player, and he has all these successes, and they say this question to me all the time, like, when does he get to overtake Simple as the GOAT? But what they're not realizing is I don't do it based on pure, number of championships or how many years I also need the level of play has to be. I always say this, to me, one aspect of GOAT has to be, since you're saying greatest player of all time, there has to be a moment that you would take that player from. Like, if you were taking them in a time machine, you'd go to this year, this month, you'd take the guy then, and you'd say, that guy at that moment, take anyone else in history, and they'd never beat him, right? My problem is this. In Counter-Strike, I still have that as simple. Maybe one day it'll be Donk or somewhere, In League, I'm sorry, people think I'm hating. I think what Chovy has done in the modern day blows my mind, bro. Even Peak Faker, there was so many other aspects of the game. We mentioned him a lot of time. There was the Deathfire Grasp, and then there was the era when, for example, when he used to play his old Rise, that was when Rise was totally different how the global worked, and people didn't have the same map understanding of it. If you look in the modern day, a lot of the metrics have been leveled up for most of the contender squads, but Chovy's still just head and shoulders above everyone. I don't get how it's the raw flaw of his game that impresses me, Yamato. I think the ceiling is the highest I've seen as well, but it's how, if you have his ceiling and his floor are really not that far off. I've never seen any player this consistently good.
I think the comparison, the main thing, is kind of like Chovy being the Magnus Carlsen, in the sense that where in the chess world, similar to now, is that if a mid laner needs to become good, the matchups can be studied, the footage is there, what is expected of you, and basically how the game is being played is a lot more figured out. Yes. And so you have a lot of players that are very good at set few champions. They play their mages and they're really, really good at that, and they can lock in and they can stay in the pocket against the best. And while during Faker's era of dominance, I felt like the game was so less figured out, where a lot of pocket picks would come through. People were, I remember in the opening split that Faker played, he would play Karthus mid, nobody else was playing Karthus mid, and then there was answers in the Karthus mid. He played Nidalee mid against the Kazakhs. Everything was all over the place, and a lot of things were a lot less figured out, I felt like. And Faker was just so far ahead of the curve. It's as if someone took a player from 4 years ahead of time and just plopped him in 2013. Yes. That's kind of how it was to watch Faker. But Chovy's achievement is in a world where it's it's comparable. It's everyone has access to the same kind of tools to get better. There's no advantage in being a genius ahead of time. Rest in peace, of course, Shushay, but that was his big advantage when he was a player, was he figured out Gragas mid first, Alistar mid, Evelyn. He was an innovator that was just ahead of the curve, and that was his advantage. And I do think that Faker, during that era, the big difference is now everyone has the same tools, everyone has the same way to do it, and still Chovy, against all of these guys that have all the footage, especially in Korea, when we have players like BDD, Showmakers, Zeka, it's to be so consistent and always be the actual best during this entire period is insanely impressive. I can only remember 2022 spring moving into, and then 2023 spring moving into MSI. Maybe those were the only eras where, periods where Chovy wasn't clearly the best. And then to go back to that point where you said it's if we handpick a month or two where a player was the highest peak possible ever, I think it was 2024 spring finals into MSI, where he was just untouchable, like simply just untouchable. The peak performance of that, where he just dropped the Azir games to drag pace over the finish line, or come into an MSI where every team is banning 5 champions against him in every lobby possible and still keep up in deep pockets. I think that level of peak is something that no one else achieved. But the comparison is always tough to make because it's just different eras, different landscapes. What Faker did was obviously like insanely impressive, and why we call him GOAT is specifically those 4 or 5 years, because even in the periods when Faker didn't win Worlds or didn't make Worlds even, he was insanely like elo held by teammates, and we find those years to be also like insanely impressive because we don't only look at the World Championships.
If you're asking the question, it's a different question, isn't it? Which is it? Are we asking who's the best player ever? Who's like the GOAT? If you ask me who's going to win a clutch game to win the yeah, I'll take Faker all day long. He might even be my number 1 in esports history. He's just unbelievable at that quality. But as I say, if you just ask me, pick someone to play out a regular season, I'd take Chovy all day long, mate. I think it's impossible the level he's at. Also, I'll throw in one last detail, bro. Here's what's crazy. You should always be careful what you wish for, mate. Because in the same way as I do think Fearless has actually made it a bit trickier for Faker, we talked about this in the past, but I just think it's true. I think Fearless has actually forced Chovy to get even better. Because Chovy was the guy before where if he had those 3 or 4 meta champions, he was the shit on. People forget even. I even think he took over Faker being the best Ahri player ever. Like, he was unbelievable on that in the like 23, 24 era. The difference is Fearless, now that it's forced Chovy to constantly go deep in his champion pool, his champion pool's unbelievable, bro. Like, think about it, he plays it all. He can go from the Ryze to the Anivia to the Aurora to the Azir to the fucking Yone. Like, it just, whatever's strong right now, he can play. And as a result, it's also just making the draft piss easy for his teams, mate. Like, I even pointed out earlier, that's one area Knight still has like the question mark of like, what about the Azir? There's no question mark on that for Chovy. What champion does anyone even question about this guy now? Nothing. He's just a master of the game.
Well, even the Orianna, that was like the last one.
Agreed.
The Orianna, he just smurfs on it too. It's like watching his games. It's so obvious that he gets into the head of the opponent. I don't want to say it's some psychological game because he does it through the sheer force of just spacing and laning. But the way he leverages the fear of the opponent's mid and the respect that they give him is bleeding out to everything else. He just roams, finds angles, whether he's playing Ryze. I just feel like he's covering the full depth in terms of what he can do with himself. Like we have to talk about it because it's just the truth, because it paints the whole story of how big of a disappointment this World Championship was that he lost this one in particular, because I do think that the choking narrative was very overblown in the previous ones, because he wasn't even supposed to be, the number 1 team in some of these cases.
I don't know if you saw this because it was during the time when you were away doing your Los Ratones adventure, but we did an episode of the 4 Horsemen where we had Arnold from Gen G, like the CEO or CEO, whatever his, I think it's CEO, whatever his title is at Gen G. We had him on an episode. And the problem is, Yamato, I made a point in true inimitable Thorin fashion, which he would have been able to agree with, but then I put too much spice on the hot dog at the end and he had to like back off. But what happened was I said it as if I was speaking to Kesper, right? And I said, come on, what's with all this bullshit where you guys just refuse to give Chovy like enough chances to beat Faker's LCK record? And if I had just kept it at that, right, then I feel like Arnold would have agreed with me because he's obviously a Chovy guy. But the problem is then I said something like, stop being scared, you little bitches. And so because essentially on a broadcast, I was calling Kesper little bitches, he had to be like, I'm not involved with this. Yeah, literally did that. He like put his hands up like, I can't be involved with that take at all, because you can't be, you have to understand, you can't be disrespectful like that to like Korean elders, etc. But I think my point was a valid one. Yamato, bearing in mind, to fans, right, you're not supposed to count LCK Cup. That we were told this last year. That's not supposed to be an LCK title. That's just some weird other title. My problem is this, Yamato. If they remember when Faker began, there was 3 splits a year you could win. You could win the 3 OGN tournaments. Then for many years there was 2 LCK splits. So look, I used to say, this will sound mad, Yamato, because now it's the opposite. Because back in the day, Faker had 3 worlds, but then 10 LCK. I actually used to tell people, the LCK one's the most unbeatable record. How's anyone ever going to get 10 LCK titles? Because think about it, even when it was a 2-split system, you're going to have to be like the best for almost 5 years. Like no one's going to do that, right? The joke is, I'm going to go the other way. First of all, spoiler, particular, 6 worlds is now the unbeatable work. Like, that's the one you can't do because you have to have 6 worlds you fucking win. Chovy has one. But I'll tell you what, Yamato, first of all, he might do it anyway. But if they actually brought back either 2, maybe we can count LCK Cup and do it scuffed-wise, or you ever got 3 splits again. Mate, this guy will get to the LCK record. If you give him the opportunity, he will get that record. Like, I thought no one in history would even have a chance, but he's going to have a chance at it, Yamato. Like, if we're counting LCK Cup and there's at least 2 per year, he might be able to do it because I believe he's on like 7 now. That's pretty nuts in itself.
Bro, now that you said it, I need to pull up the Road to MSI. Is there a finals for Road to MSI? That's what I have to look.
I mean, there wasn't last year, wasn't it? So I'm going to, unfortunately, I feel like no.
There's not going to be one, if I'm reading it correctly.
Because there wasn't last year, mate. It looks like the same thing.
That's not going to be a final.
It's the exact same format as before. It is, yeah. It's mad, isn't it?
Oh, everybody hates finals, I guess. We didn't even get to see T1 Genji at all in winter. And, now we're here. Crazy. Oh, it's mad. I can't believe someone made those decisions. Guess what? They are indeed bitches.
Mad, isn't it? Whose decision was that? Such a fucking crazy idea. I don't get it myself, mate. I don't get it. Because you know what I mean?
That's what Lance Armstrong.
Because my problem is this. If you have the same opportunities and then Chovy doesn't get there, then cool, fake it. You can have that record forever, mate. It's one of the best records in esports history. My problem is, at least give Chovy the chance of it, for fuck's sake. Let's not just make it so he has 1 he can win per year. What, so then he has to be the best for like 3 whole more years? Like, figure didn't you have to do that to get the championships? So, I don't know. I think that one's a bit of a bullshit one. Look, I'll give him the Worlds one. No one's going to get that one. That's obvious at this point. But the LCK one, Chovy will win that at this point in time, mate. I know normally you shouldn't say that about like future tournaments, but look at the guy's track record. It's impossible. All right, I'll tell you where we will talk about FairX, though. One area I am excited for FairX, though, is now they get to go to first stand. Remember, this isn't last year where there was 1 spot only. Now, true, listen, I'll just temper this immediately and say the following, Yamato. I am a tiny bit scared because some of their players are really fresh, and this is going to be like a massive amount of pressure on them. I'll even throw this out there, because normally the best LCK teams just are the best teams in the world, which usually means you have experienced players who've been deep, etc. People might not appreciate that the pressure, if you are a young Korean player to represent Korea, is fucking enormous, bro. Like, if you fail, they will really hate on you fucking hard. So there's a lot of pressure. With that said, though, I'm just looking at people like Diablo, and I'm like, mate, you could absolutely tear this fucking first stand up. This could be really interesting tournament. So what are your thoughts about FairX against the international pool?
I think it's kind of cool that the way the bracket works is like you have 2 groups, BO5, win 2 BO5s, you qualify to the next stage, knockout stage, with no double elimination. It's just like you have 2 best of 5s to get into gear. I wonder how the teams are going to manage it. I imagine it's going to be very similar to First Stand when it was in Korea, where teams kind of fly in late. I do think there is an advantage in the fact that the home team is not going to be a team that is considered like a team that is going to like smoke the competition. Because I do think that the LCK, like How Alive playing in the same arena that they played in for their entire career, I do think it was something that it was understated because How Alive was just so much better than everybody. But if it happened again and we would have, let's say, in the LCK arena now they would play, I would think, oh, the LPL teams is like, you have such a disadvantage. But they are playing now in of course, Brazil. The fact that they get to play 2 BO5s, I think, is nice. They probably, based on the seeding, will have like a warm-up one, so to speak. I don't know exactly if the groups have been made yet or not. I'm not so sure. I think there's going to be a group draw, I believe, closer to the tournament. In my mind, I think that the cool thing about this BFX roster is just how good Kellen and Diablo are. I think that's what makes them very, very tough to beat. I think that a team like BFX, if they play against the other teams that are not Bilibili, like if they play against AL, I think that could be a very competitive series where BFX can win. I think that they would beat all the other Western teams, and I think the 2 teams that would be very tough to them to break is obviously Genji and then Bilibili. But even on a good day, they can beat Bilibili because Bilibili is a flawed team. Like if they make it into top 3, I think very impressive, and I think it looks very possible too.
By the way, let's actually bring that up as well. Another problem that actually LPL and LCK players have is because the competition is so fierce there. And if you look bad, you will look even worse because you're playing the best players. Bro, another person we have to do the sort of correction on the career narrative, it has to be Kellen at this point in time. Because, mate, when back in the day when this guy was playing with Doc, damn, etc., I'll fully admit, I totally hated on this guy. Like, he looked like a bomb. And then he had his times where he was fucking imprisoning Deft, etc. Like, there was times where this guy was a bit sus. You can see he's developed over the years, though. He's definitely come on leaps and bounds.
Oh, it's just I think in terms of the lane phase, it's just very impressive. Kellen, I do think that the meta's in a very good place. It's like range supports, lane dominance. Like people associate like lane supports because of like what they see in solo queue with softness and scaling,
Yes.
but these matchups are extremely volatile and mechanically it puts a lot of stress on you in terms of what you need to do, in terms of finding like the trade timers and how synchronized you are. These are like 2v2 matchups that we see teams drill like crazy. We, for example, 2022 Worlds with Fnatic, we were playing 2v2s against Lehens and Ruler like 2 hours a day, where we played Lulu into Yumi. And people might hear that. I was like, what, Lulu into Yumi? Is that complicated? No, you find like insane nuance in how you need to play the matchup in terms of how you control the bush. It's like we reached a conclusion in the end, and everyone else did, was that Sivir Yumi, if they want to win the matchup, they need to all in level 1 and drop to like 1 HP and then to heal up. Like very, very intricate details that if you misplay and miss even a spell or a timing or a beat, it can get very tough. And Kellen is really damn good at that. And I think another detail that is very important for BFX is that I think Raptor is just really damn good. I think his read of the game very, very good, which makes their core identity very evident. It's like they play through bot side and they link up with Kellen and Raptor. It's kind of like similar in a freaky way. It kind of reminds me of like where the meta is at and how they look like. They're kind of like a miniature version of what Samsung was back in 2017 when they won the World Championship, because like everything happens through bot, they connect, and then Vikla finds way to kind of contribute and to like add to that. And if Vikla can be stable, this team looks really, really good, because still, I think Vikla is a little bit overrated by the community. It's like, wow, Vikla is now suddenly, look at him. Like people gave up on him, but he made it. But there were many moments even this year where Vikla was really, really inting it. So I am not like 100% sold on this guy, because that will be the key for teams that maybe I rate less or weaker than BFX to beat them. Like, can Caps against BFX just carry a game against Vikla? Yes, he can. But still, I would favor BFX because of the other details that we've talked about plenty.
Also, the difference is, I won't blame FearX because they totally earned their spot here. Think about this, they beat T1 and they smashed D+, by the way. Like, now, again, if you want to see the Diablo show, go watch that fucking series. He just fucking destroys them. And the team I want to criticize a little bit is a bit D+, though, mate. Because, listen, props for beating T1. That's a very respectable result. I actually think as the year goes on, that might even age better. I imagine T1 will be really good in the next splits. They'll be right back contending for go to MSI and beat Worlds and all that jazz, because they do have some great players. But this lower bracket final match was a bit shit for me. I can tell you, even Yamato, technically D+ was actually the betting favourite. By a small amount, they were actually the betting favourite over FearX, and they got swept. So what do you think?
Oh, it was always in the back of my mind, like it was scary because we had two teams that had the best series of their team history, like in recent history at least. They can't say that for D+, right? Against T1 specifically. And I did think that the added resilience from D+ going to 5 games would be super helpful. But it was always that question, it's like, are they going to be able to maintain that performance and convert that continuously? Because teams can peak, things can make sense on the day, and things can work out just right. And BFX just had the way more honest victory. I think on the day, we saw a lot of things that we've seen from D+ players in the past, like Lucid overreaching, because Lucid had a pretty bad split, I think, even by his standard, before he faced up against T1. There were just... also with Siwu, it's like he had suddenly this insane performance where he outperformed Doran and murdered. Is he going to be able to replicate that? And they struggled. I think the main thing, once again, is that BFX, their recipe to success is something that they can replicate a lot easier, and they find traction with that. And as long as Showmaker didn't outperform Vikla, which obviously he didn't, I didn't feel like, especially watching the games, that D Plus really had a chance, because it's kind of like the chariot, the everything turned back into a pumpkin and all that jazz. D Plus had a godlike performance there in the final games against T1, but there was nothing to hold on to, it seems. So at least one of the teams just had a peak performance that couldn't hold on to it, but BFX, I think, had the true essence here.
The players on D Plus I feel sorry for, Shiwu and Smash. They're just good players, man. I don't blame them at all, but I know what you mean. It's the reason why when we talked about the D Plus T1 series, I specifically described it for Lucid as that was his life series. Like, that was the best series of his entire life, guys. Like, that wasn't what he can do week to week. In fact, if I was owner, by the way, I would watch this fucking D Plus series like, where was this guy when I was playing him? What the fuck? Like, how did I catch him on the one day where he turned in like fucking like peak piano or something? Like, the fuck is this shit? Because I know what you mean. He wasn't that good for the rest of the split. He definitely wasn't. He was trash. And Raptor absolutely cleared the fuck out of this guy in this one. He just destroyed him. And also, if you're look, the real problem is I don't put that much blame on Showmaker, because Showmaker isn't a top player at this point in time. He's just a good player, He's not, and no one's even putting him in contention with Chovy for the best player at that position, etc. So look, it's not like it's the end of the world. D Plus lost this one, but I do look at it and think, if you're going to lose that matchup as D Plus after you've already beat T1, remember, some of these FearX players are still inexperienced. How does it get better for you this year? Because surely later this year, T1, and by the way, God forbid Animal Life ever figures it out, guys. You've still got the players to do it. If these teams ever get really good, you're just not going to be relevant, D Plus. You're not going to go to Worlds. You're just going to be on the very outskirts, which unfortunately is where the year began, looking in, going, fuck, I wish we had one better player and then we could have done it, because this was a real opportunity to get to the final. I do think it was.
I agreed. I wanted to say exactly the same. It's like them losing this one means they don't make the World Championship. Like, I think that's the claim you can make. Keep in mind, we're not in the era where LCK gets 4 spots. I don't know. I imagine like the 4th spot maybe will be in contention with LPL depending on results, maybe that. But even that, you never know what's going to happen, what team is going to be sent in. So it's like, even then, looking at top 4, I imagine the BFX is going to continue their run, and I can't imagine still. It's like we talk about player credit. I can't imagine the rosters of HLE and T1 not to have like figured it out to overtime. Like, that's just not going to be a thing in my mind. Luck, D+. Good luck.
Also, if people don't know, I looked it up right now. Diablo's age, he's only 18 years old since October last year. So, bro, he's basically like 18 and a half years old. This is why we have to always put in context your region and what the expectations are. Because when Calist came into the LEC, I think Calist's mega, mate. I enjoy watching every game he plays. There's a difference when Asians come in and they're super rookies, though, bro. Because their super rookies could be like the best in the world at that position. Not just like, I might be the best player in my region. Like, this guy's fucking smurfing so hard. And I look at his teammates. Look, we praised some of them on this episode. But before they played with him, some of his teammates were nothing, mate. They were just headed for like a completely humdrum LCK career where the best you'll ever place is like 6th or something in the LCK. Like, some of these guys had already had a few years. So, no, I'm with you. I think this guy's like, it's funny. Last year, people already hyped him a little bit at the end of the year. This year, though, he's just taken the step up. That's just fucking crazy, man. This is going to be one of the better, like, breakout performances in years. He's just so good. It's unreal, isn't it?
It's just what a meta to do it in. Like, it's such a clear expression of skill, the current meta,
Yes.
and he just delivers every step of the way. Like, I feel like now in this meta, you can get away with being the weaker ADC in many metas, whether it's like something simple as like playing Varos and trading like range champs. You get away with like, oh, you have 5 CS down, doesn't matter. Other details are more important. But now, like, bot lane is so damn important, and it's so visible when you get advantages and what you do with that advantage. Like we mentioned Fortic earlier, like just compare these two guys. It's just a completely different world. I'm with you. To do it in mid lane and ADC, to do it in LPL or Korea as like just someone that comes in and does it, that is like extremely impressive. It's like we praised Honkyu a lot because in his rookie split he had very competitive series against some of the best guys ever, because mid lane is such a role where it's like, yeah, everyone everyone on the list is like, oh, they've been to 10 internationals, 10 internationals, 10 internationals, 10 internationals. They all won their split 15 times. Like, these are the guys you're going to compete against. Good luck. And he still like performed internationally. It's like very rare that the mid lane ADC in the Eastern regions, you don't get the rookies. It's very tough.
I'll give you another angle as well. This isn't the region that produces these hard carry ADCs. Like, the joke is, how did Pace become a hard carry ADC? He had to go off to the LPL finishing school, and they had to sort of train him like, this is how you play the selfish ADC stuff. If you look in Korea, they do produce ADCs that are more in the vein of Gumayushi, Teddy, etc. People where it's like they play their role, and then in the right moment of the game they carry, or the right pick they carry. Bro, what's so insane about Diablo is this guy has more of the flair of like a breakout LPL ADC. The guy was just like, give me all the resources, my lane wins this fucking game, and I'm just and by the way, it goes out saying in the team fight I will output infinite damage, just infinite damage, mate. Like, it's so impressive. Like, if you turn the nameplates off, people would genuinely think there's like contender for best player in the world sometimes. He's just so fucking good. But yeah, props. It looks really good, which obviously leads to a classic narrative on this show that we will always talk about and update, which is, if Worlds was to happen today, which region would win it? Not team, which region? So, good old Polymarket has a market up for this right now. At the moment, unsurprisingly, thanks to the Gen G performance, LCK is leading big time. Like, the traders on Polymarket have 72% chance that LCK will win Worlds this year. LPL is at 22%, and then in the drop-off is crazy. LEC is all the way at 6%. So right now, heavily favoured to LCK. If Worlds was tomorrow, it obviously isn't, but if it was, would LCK win it?
Easily. We are talking about Gen G like the boogeyman that's coming out to get all the teams, and it's just the truth. Like, I don't think anyone is touching them anytime soon. And like the only hope, even if I would go so far to predict the World Championship, is like you are hoping that they are going to underperform at the World Championship, and that still puts you at the mercy of many different elements, because it also requires, on the other hand, a team that can rise to the task. And usually at the World Championship, you have one or two of those. So that's like the only gamble. And usually the teams that rise up to the task are the ones that come from the LCK too. So it just seems like such a lock. I'll be very intrigued to see what the market would say if Gen G was like a standalone prop in this one. If they would be like, oh, they're just at 60%, or if the market would speak to the idea of them being chokers. You know, that would be intriguing.
And here's the funny thing as well. Right now, here's the reason. Look, yes, that's right, Fake and T1 fans, load it up. I fell for it again. I'm going to do the same thing where I say Gen G are going to win Worlds. Jovi's going to win Worlds. I'm going to keep doing it. I don't care. This is what the analysis says. Here's why I actually feel like, as of right now, I'm certain LCK wins. Because, bro, if you look in history, with the exception of that one time when BLG beat Gen G in that 2023 run, it's always a Korean team that takes Chovy and Gen G down. Well, as of right now, we just talked about it for 20 minutes. There's no Korean team can beat this squad right now. Like, if you're, like, right now, the LPL isn't as stronger, so I can't think they're going to beat Gen G. And right now, which Korean team would beat them? Like, T1 didn't even get top 3 guys. Like, they were actually somewhat irrelevant. D Plus would have no chance, and Fearex got absolutely murked in one of the fastest finals ever, and that's even with the whole, it was in Hong Kong bizarre element, which you didn't even talk about. Who cares on that one? It looked like a good event, but wasn't he? Right now, I agree with you. Forget LCK, just Gen G wins Worlds right now, mate. They just do. And if they don't, then yes, something will have changed, which is the whole point of analysing the game, watching the matches and doing shows like this, is that things can change over time. But don't worry, just like 2023, 2024, and 2025. Gen G's definitely winning Worlds. Yamato, only a fool would imagine T1 could win Worlds. Faker, who's he? Some overrated guy from last decade. Like, whatever. We all know the bingo card. We all know it.
Aye.
Because, by the way, the other problem you have right now is this would be a much sexier competition also if we just knew who the actual best LPL team is. Right now, as I just said earlier, you even have to be fair to JDG and say, fuck it is a 3-way race. Like, you can't really know quite how those... Like, there's a world where JDG beats BLG, but then anyone's legend beats BLG, and then it's JDG versus anyone's legend in the final, and is BLG really the third best team? I don't know that I'll ever believe that. For me, they could only be at worst top 2, but that's how that league works, mate. Like, it is the best league for upsets, unfortunately, at the highest level. So, by the way, I do agree with this. Even though you might not think there's crazy value in taking something at 72%, It's the whole region, though. So even if Gen G doesn't win, maybe Faker doesn't fucking steal it again. Or like I said, the craziest one really is there's a lot of time for Hanwha Light to get their shit together. And they do have some really fucking good players. But they also have one of the best coaches of all time. Like, let's see where they are by the summer. Maybe they can actually be mixing it up. So I agree with the polymarket traders. I think LCK overwhelmingly right now. This is the perfect time, actually, if anything, to take LCK. You get to summer. Maybe by then, anyone's legend is cleaner. Maybe we have some roster move elsewhere. Who the fuck knows at that point in time? There's all sorts could change. Okay. If we are going to switch regions, because we will now talk about our beloved LEC, before we do, if we were switching from Korea over to Europe, that would mean that we're picking a different region. Well, you know what's best for that, isn't it? ExpressVPN, the classic, the all-time VPN, probably the most famous VPN ever if people don't know. Also, famously, I have been in countries like China and used this VPN myself. I've always found it very easy to use. One of the things I actually love about this is how simple the layout of ExpressVPN is. One point you actually even, from the early days when I used it, I didn't even know this was a feature. And also a really cool thing, if you're someone who uses your PC for multiple different things, maybe you use streaming services, you stream yourself, maybe you want to go a different way, you can actually set which app uses the ExpressVPN, which is actually genius. So you can specifically have like your stream do it, or you could have like some sort of a content service do it to get the extra stuff on that platform in that region. But maybe you want the rest of your connection to be on your original home connection. There's also that option. So it's not like I'm on the VPN or I'm not. You can choose what is on the VPN. And also it's just really easy to use. As I always say, this one is designed for idiots. Like, it's just got a big red button. You just fucking press it. You just press that button and it works. It's also got one thing I really enjoy about modern day VPNs, which is you don't have to be some old school hacker putting in IP. You can just pick the best server that they suggest. And they've got a bunch of recommended ones, which are just a go-to. That's just going to work well for you, unless you have some really specialist concern. But if you do, you can then get into the weeds and find some really specific one that works for you on the thing you want. Otherwise, just go with what they suggest. It makes it really easy to do it, doesn't it? And you also don't have to worry about things like if you're out and about on your phone or your laptop or a device, you don't have to worry about using the public Wi-Fi and then people see all what you're doing or can access your shit, etc. So there's actually so many aspects of this that are just really simple. They cover all the bases that you'd want from a VPN. So you can obviously also get them at their lowest price ever, because their plans start at just $3.49 a month, which is only 12 cents a day, by the way, to get this like coverage and all this security. Then they've also got like a really, really easy, as I say, it's one button, super easy to get going. So secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/summoning. That's expressvpn.com/summoning to find out how you can get up to 4 extra months. expressvpn.com/summoning. Okay, I saved it till the end, but we actually will do like a decent segment on this now. Obviously, LEC's over. Europe, the region is done. Bro, this one I actually think has been underplayed, because here's the problem, right? The big narrative is obviously the classic one of like, wow, what a great coaching staff G2 have is. They always peak in the playoffs. How did they do it? Bro, before we even get to that, can we just talk about how insane this final was, Yamato? Because I feel like in history, when people see that G2 won, they're going to go, oh, well, ho-hum, G2 won again. Mate, this might be the closest game 5 maybe ever in the LEC. Like, if people didn't see that clip where you slow down the fucking Caps player that he did onto Kiahu, mate, if Kiahu just actually lands that on fucking Labrov, like, they just win that fight. That's the game. The KC would have been the champions this split. Like, it totally changes all these crazy numbers. Like, I think that game 5 was fucking crazy, mate. What do you think?
Honestly, for me, this is in the contention of like the best LEC final ever. Like for when I say that, I mean the whole era. It's like, oh, do you mean ELCS? No, like for LEC in particular, for sure. We had like a 2019 final in summer. I believe they went to 5 games. We had the Origin Fnatic one in summer 2015. There was a Ultra Giga Banger 2 with a lot of like quotables, but this was up there. Considering it was so damn close.
Did the fucking reverse sweep. Imagine how insane that would have been to reverse sweep G2 of all people, for fuck's sake.
I think like the main thing is that like removes a little bit from it, right? It's like G2 were very like they had big leads in game 3 and game 4. Like Yike was absolutely dominating the early game, and they managed to like throw it away. The fact that the game 5 was so damn close and required Caps to like tap into ungodly sources. It's like obviously like League of Legends is my game. I love League of Legends, but it's like there's very rare moments where I like borderline get emotional watching somebody play. Like I could feel like I could like shed one tear, come down my cheek. When I was watching Caps play in this game 5, it was also the ramp up of how impressed I was with him as the series like progressed, and then in that final game, it wasn't like that fight was the one that was highlighted where he just freakishly predicted Aurora's movement.
Mental. It's so mental. You don't even see it on screen in live in real time. You'll never see it, bro. It's nuts, isn't it?
It's absolutely crazy. It was like that, of course, tops everything. But in that same game, he had so many insane plays and insane like he was just so zoned in where the game was borderline perfect. It was so well played. I think what Skewmond and Caps did in the series, like I made the claim right away. Like I think they are top 5 in their position, and maybe if I think about it more, I could even raise them higher. But top 5 in their position globally, like that's how good I think they are playing. I think that Caps is like even in the other games outside of the Nivea, I think he was playing insanely well. This split was a very impressive one. I think in the regular split he was also performing super good. And Skewmond has competition in the jungle position. I mentioned it in the previous episodes, like jungle in the LEC has been very tough competition with Yike, with Elioya and Rylek, and also of course Skewmond. Like this is the top 4. And it's extremely competitive. And Yike has had an amazing split. Like if people only look at that series, people are going to think and say, "Oh, Yike's bad." But no, Yike has been insane. Even the series before, Yike was playing against Elioya and was just completely out jungling Elioya, and that's Elioya who had also a really good split. So there's just layers to the game, and Skewmond is just checking every box. It's like mechanically, the champion pool, in terms of decision making, he is really getting those last pieces that he was missing looking at him last year. Because last year we were very happy with his pathing. When he was ahead in the game, he would snowball the game and carry the game, but we lacked that level of dynamic play where he would break the game with cheeky ganks, finding like unique angles. And now he's added that to his play, and he's capable of playing through others. Caps has a jungler that knows how to play through him, and that just makes them into a super lethal duo. I think that with all the flaws, even though I think Hansama, Labrov, and Broken Blade are very respectable players, very good players, I don't think that they are elite the same way Skewmond and Caps was in the series, because Skewmond and Caps needed to do a lot to bring them over the finish line with some of the occasional mistakes we saw from the other players. And respect to KC, honestly, because I do think from their side as well, the level of resilience to stay in the game. I was kind of.
If I told you G2 wins 3-2, you'd think it was the other way around. Probably KC goes 2-0 up, then G2 reverse sweeps them. No, like bro, like KC should have. There's a joke. I was watching social media live for this, mate. Everyone thought it was a 3-0. They thought this was like lol G2. Like I said, everyone was ready for the boring stereotype. Like G2 was too good, they can't lose. Like KC really could have beaten them. This was epic, mate. This was epic.
100%. It was just the fact that they stayed in that game 3 even. It looked like it was about to be a loser. It was very similar to the D plus T1 series, because even that series we were like, 2-0 up T1. Yeah. Game 3 started with a massive lead, and then it's just going to be over. But instead, KC stuck with it. It's like they found angles. They're just very impressive. Like Kalist, as a player, I think that he was the better performer out of the ADCs, and I'm still building on that narrative that one day Kalist is going to join G2 and they're going to join forces. And I do think that this was a series that once again like reinforces that argument, because it seems like Kalist is the type of player where while he can be sometimes quiet in a split and make mistakes, I do think when it comes to like the final games, because like this him as a player, he's played some tough series in the LEC, if we think about it. It's like he had that game 5, like against Fnatic, that went all the way when they won the winter split. It's like he has some experience under his belt, and it showcases that he can perform under immense pressure. So from the KC side, super impressive. Kana as well in that Nah game. It kind of was like reminiscent of that Nah ult that he had when they won their first split, of course, and the only win that they have in the last year. Kana on Nah mechanically. KC, respect to them. I did think that they would fall fall off sharper, but they stayed in it. And I think the main reason that they lost was just that Skymond and Caps were just simply too good. I don't think I've seen the level from Caps and Skymond, especially Skymond we've never seen, but Caps, like this level is kind of reminds me of like 2023 Caps in spring or 2024 in spring, but this was just an insane Cap split.
No, I think it's been years. Like the joke is, I do think in the past couple of years, G2 won, but it wasn't because Caps was the best player. He wasn't even the best player on the team at times. So this actual playoff run, though, he's had some amazing fucking performances. Like this was some like rolling back the years to your peak shit. I agree with you. Also on the Skewmon point, mate, this is what's nuts. This is why, even though Inspired hasn't stopped doing all the shit he does over this, you can't do that thing anymore. Like Inspired's the best Western jungler. Let's see. Because right now, Skewmon can absolutely get in that convo. Remember, guys, last year was his fucking rookie year. This guy's just actually unbelievably good. And look, I've got to see him do it internationally, obviously. But, like, he's primed to, because I'm with you. I actually think right now, mate, that I think the best LEC player is Skewmon. I always said it was Canna before, because I've also seen Canna do it internationally. And I know, like, if I look at what he's picking, even classically, he was picking champions that only the LPL and LCK tops could pick. Skewmon is just so good, mate, that if he doesn't succeed internationally, that will be the story. Like, he should. I'm with you. He should. I think of the LPL and the LCK, mate, once I go past the big names, Tarzan, Owner, there's not many players are better than Skewmon. I'm not even trolling. That's not some like crazy glaze. I get that he's playing lesser competition in LEC, but I think he's got a very real chance at like first stand MSI Worlds. By the way, he's going to be at all of them. He's got a very real chance to actually like show some of the like the aforementioned players we've talked about earlier. Like, mate, let's see what Junjia does if he has to play this guy. Or if he plays against fucking Raptor. Because Skewmon also, like I say, like Inspired, he has that like brain jungle element that I just fuck with so heavy, bro. I love people who can like control the game. He's so good at it. Also, on the Caps thing, I wanted to ask you as a coach, because a lot of coaches love like classic quotes. Have you ever heard the quote, which when I Googled now, apparently it comes from like the Navy SEALs in America. Have you ever heard the quote that goes like this, Yamato? It goes, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Have you ever heard this quote? Well, it's brilliant because I think that is the perfect example of what Caps did on the play we're talking about against Kiahu when Kiahu was on Aurora. Because, you know, in the modern day, everyone thinks of League and they think of mechanics, right? And what they want is they want like some Jackie Love Callis type guy where you do some like impossible, super complicated, fast mechanic and you just go the most crazy flash in, catch the guy, kill him. Right? That looks impressive. But in a weird way, I think players like this are way more impressive. It's why I always used to say, I always thought it was sad in League because of the way the graphics animation work around the different spells, etc. That there's so many fights that I myself have gone back and done that like YouTube 0.25 setting and watched like some unbelievable like Kerry or McHale's or something. And you're like, you can't catch that live, unfortunately. So you won't know that that was like the difference maker that won like the team fight, like Gumi to stay alive one more moment or not get CC'd and get caught. And the problem is, right, when you do those plays, a lot of those aren't actually like you just did the fastest finger, you just rushed in there and you were at the. What's beautiful is that's it. That's exactly what that quote says, Yamato. Because the whole point of that quote, what makes it genius is, it might sound counterintuitive because you're going slow, which makes you smooth. The reason why it's genius is when you're doing something complicated like that, essentially what you want to do is it's not about being fast, it's about just landing the combo. Like if you actually time it correctly, you will win that moment. And what I thought was beautiful about that was, bro, this is game 5, late in the game. And I'm sorry, in that game, it actually did look like KC was going to like come back into the match and fucking win late. Like G2 looked like they'd blown the early lead. Like in that setting, you'd be, a lot of people would be forgiven for just making a play, mate. You roll the buttons, you just make a play. That means Caps in game 5 has the wherewithal to almost like mentally pause like some Monty shit back in the day and be like, now the win conditions of this fight would be, and then figure out like assess the threat, figure out, and then he just did essentially the most perfect play he could possibly do in that circumstance. And for real, that's why his team won this game. Like I think that play should be iconic. If people really understand how epic it was, that was fucking one of the best plays of Cap's career. It was mental. So good in it. I've rewatched it about 50 times, mate. It's so good.
You know, the rumors of Caps being the next Hall of Legend inductee, it's like if the content has already been made, you need to find a way to include this, you know, like, because this is just, you know, no one's talking, like usually when there's plays happening, people talk about, oh, he should have done it better, oh, this guy should have done it. No one's saying anything about the Kiahu guy. He did it. He did the right thing. He did the right thing. He's supposed to play around. Yep. And if you're predicting exactly where he will TP back, just because Caps is so deep into the mind of what everyone needs to do in the game, That level of anticipation is just ridiculous. It's just freaky, very, very freaky. We talk about, at least Caps makes it easy for us, in the conversation of like the LEC GOAT and the trophies, because Caps' numbers are absolutely ridiculous.
Speaking of which, I'll actually find it for you here because I saw someone put it online, so I'll just find the exact number. Let me just see what it was. Oh, yeah, here we go. Are you ready for the number? Listen to this. Listen to this, bro. And remember, some of the ones he didn't win on this, were like the ones where people had their life series, right? So out of a possible 24 LEC trophies, Caps has won 16 of them, bro. Bro, what? He's won 2/3 of the fucking trophies. What?
I don't get, when people when people talk shit on my career, Thorin, and people say you never won LEC. It's like, yeah, I never worked with Caps.
People didn't. Yeah, I know. A lot of people didn't say it. I know.
I didn't work with Caps. What am I supposed to do?
I know. That's so that is actually one of the most crazy numbers I've ever seen, man. That is fucking impossible. Remember how many years that is? That's from 2017 to now, 2026. Like we're talking like a 10-year span that once we get to the end of this year. And this guy essentially is good to just win 2/3 of the championships available at all times. Like, the fuck? And look, you can see he's had some great teammates. He's the only person in that list, by the way. Like every other teammate's been cycled out. Like there's a period in time, mate. If we'd have gone back 4 or 5 years, I'd have gone, yeah, but wait a minute, he is playing with Jankos though. Or whoa, respect to Wonder though, the top player. Bro, those guys are long gone. They're watching these matches on Twitch going, hey, he still got it. Like that was your teammate. Reckless is often your fucking teammate. Like this guy just endures. Like it's why low key. He actually does deserve the GOAT status just completely. There's plenty of people who've won more championships that weren't necessarily better, but like the longevity of ability to, like even in his bad years, and I'll give you a great line, right? One of my favorite players in the NFL is the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. And he once had a year where for him, his numbers were worse. And someone said, like, you had a down year. And he said this baller line where he went, yeah, the thing about my down years, though, is they'd be career years for other people. As in, like, that would be like a great year for them. That's the same with Caps. Like his bad years, Yamato, is like, I only won one LEC championship this year. Some people say I wasn't necessarily the best mid laner and I had 2 bad playoff series. Like, well, fuck me, mate. That's like, that'd be a normal year for any other good player like that. In fact, if you go and talk to people like fucking Lyon, that's a great year. What are you talking about? Like, what's the complaint about? So, no, it's just, I've got a question for you. Since you were there way back in the days when the Dark Magic was written, Yamato, give people who only have been watching the last 2 or 3 years, and to them it's boring that Caps is the best, and they know he's the best, they've heard all the stories, and they might not have even seen when he first came into the EU LCS back in 2017, what was the vibe? Do you remember when you first heard this? Because he had like a Calista type vibe, like this guy's going to be really good, but no one really knew it. It was all off the idea he was this like solo queue wizard and he had crazy mechanics. And even if you remember with the whole Faker thing, it was the idea that he was some cocky kid who was going to come in a bit. Do you remember when he entered? Like, what was your sense of like who this guy was supposed to be? What was the hype?
No, so surprisingly for those people that didn't watch back then, it's like what the meme was the mid lane spot in Fnatic was a spot that was blessed. It was like Fnatic mid laners was like a thing where they would always find, the next talent. And they did, right? They found Nemesis after the fact, after of course Caps. And I remember this particular game against G2 where he played Rise against Perks' Syndra. And at this point in time, G2 is dominating the league. This is after 2016, 2017. G2 with Sven and Mythi and Trick, they no one can touch them. And they play this game against Fnatic, and Caps does just crazy shit. Like in this game, what he did with Rise in terms of just knowing his limits, that was like something that was like very new. It was always like instantly like revolutionary. And I remember like we scrimmed against him, and I said in an interview, because somebody asked me about Fnatic, and I got clowned for this take a lot. But I said we had only seen 1 week of play, and we had scrimmed against him a little bit. And I said instantly, Caps is the best mid laner in the league. In terms of laning as a mid laner in that characteristic, in that focus, he is the best mid laner. I remember people were shitting on me, obviously, because you know how it is. People say, "Oh, but he's not at the top of the league or winning every game." But anyone with a good eye watching Caps play at the time would just you would just like, oh shit, there's something like very, very special here in terms of the nuance of every like micro decision that he takes. Like the only other player regionally that I ever felt similar, but maybe at like a smaller level, was Jizuki, because Jizuki had like the same pursuit of over aggression. Because at the time, what was Caps' biggest downfall, which is something that had to grow into 2017, moving into 2018, he was the guy who was the over aggressor. He was the guy that you ganked on mid. He was the guy that you killed on mid. He was the guy that, if your teammates didn't click to mid, he would kind of be like, oh shit, there's going to be a problem. Even in the Worlds Run 2018, when they made it all the way to the finals, he had games where he was like dropping 0-5 deaths. That was like a Caps classic. But in terms of a player that when he was ahead and in winning position, this was a person that from day one was playing with such a level of confidence that you just knew with time he would mature and would find the timings of when to swing and find the knockout punches. And I think that the period where he worked together with Perks was really like the key stepping stone for him, because he added the maturity that Perks had to his pool, to his gameplay, and you could see instantly that his side lane play and how he played with his teammate, how he played with Jankos, suddenly this fell into place. Because 2018, our whole game plan against Caps and how we sometimes beat them in regular split in a game was, we're gonna pick Zach, we're gonna gank him because he always plays aggressively. But then after 2019, and he added that layer of play to him, he just became simply like untouchable. So from day one, you could just see there was something really, really special there.
Oh, I'm with you. The difference is, if you think about when I was explaining that play made on Kiahu here, mate, the young Caps would never be one sitting around waiting for that play. He'd already have gone in on someone else, or he'd flashed on someone, like, no, I know what you mean. What he added to his game, which is why he's actually one of the greatest players in all regions of League of Legends ever, even though I definitely wouldn't put him third into a fucking like legendary capsule or whatever. I'd have him like 10th or something. That's my reasonable compromise. But the reason why he's one of the greatest players of all time is, think about the discussion we had earlier about people like Jawu and Faker. He's also mastered what I call old man game in League of Legends, Yamato, which is where you can win without having the fastest fingers or without being the guy who's super hardy and up to. You can win by playing a measured game, and you can win by picking your spots and finding the right moment to make the. Like, if you notice, I think a young man tries to win by making 5 great plays in a row. Bro, an old man realizes sometimes it's about making the one, not even great, the one key play that wins you that game. That's what people like Zhao and Faker and Caps make their living off, mate. Like, you have these studs come in every year who are hot shit, the Callistas of the world that we're seeing, but they're all playing on the edge of their mechanics. They're playing the most high-fee, high-variance Blaber game that we're talking about earlier. Caps is actually a master of League of Legends, though. That's what's so respectable. And the difference is, as I said, some of that like more responsible style looked a bit boring the last few years. Bro, this year he's pairing it with like also high performance too. Like, it's like he's got a good floor and his ceiling's legit again. So I have to say, before this actual finals weekend, I was really wondering, bro, if this team goes to the first stand, won't they just get knocked around by everyone else? This was fucking impressive, like, especially when you add in, as you said, let's expand it out. If you add in how Caps is playing, but also that Skumon is just having like the best split of his career, and he's already a very good player. Like, they actually have a real chance for some upset potential, right?
Oh, definitely. I think definitely with how Fearless works, they're going to play BO5s. That's the tough part, that you need to overcome so many. I do think the pitfalls of some of the mistakes from the other 3 guys, it's like they're good. They are top 3 minimum regionally. They're really, really good. But when we talk internationally, there's very, very few players that you can like send in there and have them carry a game. That's going to be rare. I do think Skumon and Caps right now, like I mentioned it earlier, like if Caps has a good game, a great game against Vikla, he can carry a game 100%. You have Caps in a good game against Honkyu or even Shanks. I can see that happening. Skumon is playing at a level where if things hit right, I think that he can do fantastic against anybody. I would love to see the Skumon Inspire matchup now again. We got to see it. We got to see it, of course, when they played against FlyQuest, but now it's even more hype in my mind. But I do think in this round, Inspire does have like a weaker team around them, because I'm still looking at Isles. It's like Lavrov is going to run circles around him. No matter what criticism you have towards Lavrov, like Isles is 3 tiers below even that, you know. But I think Skumon and Caps, for me, I've said it already 3 times this episode, but I think they're like top 5 globally in their position.
All right, we're going to do it. I actually linked it in the chat if the producer, while I'm talking, can pull it up. There was a tweet by Remain Big Aid, who obviously is like what's his official? Oh, it is General Manager League of Legends for G2. Now, look, much like a lot of his career, actually, my message to Remain Big Aid is always the same. Settle down a bit, will you? You're going a bit too far. Now, that used to just be before, because he is, fair play to him, by the way. Here's the one area you can never talk shit at him when he does all that dress up. He does look in fucking unbelievable shape for like a legit almost decade at this point in time. Like, has this guy just been like 11% body fat for like a fucking decade or something? Like, that alone is very impressive for someone who works on a computer all the time. But obviously, look, believe it or not, I'm not really the sort of guy who thinks painting your whole body is the way to go. But 2 things. One, I will say I will always fall back on what I call the TO defense. So in the NFL in the 2000s mainly, there was a really great wide receiver called Terrell Owens, right? And he was famous for being one of the ones who pioneered doing like really crazy celebrations. Like he had one where he had like some popcorn he ate. He had a whole bunch that were like crazy. He had one where he got the pom-poms from the cheerleader, stuff that no one else even thought of. You know, everyone else just does like a fist bump or a dad. And what he used to say, because people used to complain and say this was unprofessional, or he's making the game about himself. So he had a great line. He said, if you don't like me celebrating, just keep me out the end zone, which is a gangster thing to say. It's basically saying, if you stop me scoring, I won't be able to celebrate. So same thing. If you don't like Remain dressing up like that, just don't let him go to the finals weekend. Boys, eliminate him in 4th. You'll never see him dressed up in the outfit ever again. You won't worry. But here's where he has gone too far, Yamato. Because I understand you've just won the championship. Maybe also KC fans have probably been shitty to you for the last 3 weeks. You're riding the high. Also, you've made the decision, Shimano. You've chosen to stick with this squad. You're the general. But this tweet he's made, brother, this is too far. I get that you're riding the high, but this tweet is mental. His tweet says, G2 players are the best at their roles in Europe, and 2025 didn't change my mind. So, like, bear in mind, right? He's not just talking about Skewmon. We're with him on that one. He's not just talking about that. He's saying all 5 G2 players are the best in their role in Europe. Come on, Yamato. What do you think about this? This is a bridge too far. Come on, Remain. Rein it in, mate. Rein it in. Come on.
I can imagine, like, he took a lot of scrutiny, right? Because there was the whole Inspired, the Busio thing. They wanted to
the Busio one's huge. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. It's like the Mickey X leaving one. Like, I pressed him really hard, even in that, like, when I interviewed him, like, pressed him really hard on that. I can imagine that there is, a level of like, ooh, fuck you guys that comes with that. But I think there's something cheeky with the wording. G2 players are the best at their roles in Europe.
Oh, you mean he hasn't necessarily specifically said the ones I'm saying? He hasn't said all 5 necessarily. Is that what you think?
It says G2 players.
Okay.
Because otherwise, like, my first inclination is that, bro, it's like, this is going to make the off-season very awkward. It's like, people are going to be like, bro, weren't they the best? But he said G2 players are, that, which is like, he can just say, I said G2 players. They're no longer G2 players. And now they are the G2 players. And now they're the best. That's the setup and the punchline that is going to come down the line. Because otherwise, if you just look at it, I do think it sets you up for like people are going to bring this up again when you make roster changes, inevitably, right? You're going to make roster changes at some point. Maybe you move, maybe you switch out your top lane, maybe you switch out your bot lane. The only people that are going to stay there is Skumon and Caps, and we'll see how things go, right? Obviously, they're in a very, very good position from a GMing point of view. But I do think it's a bit of a stretch, because even in that final, I would say like Callisto outperformed. I think that Kana outperformed BB. I think just Caps and Skumon moved mountains, definitely.
No, you just nailed it at the end there. Bro, if I was reading this tweet and I'm Kana, I'm like, you already took the fucking championship. I don't even just get to actually be better when I am better than him. Like, what? What is this whack shit? And then also, same for Kalist. Like, here's the thing. I will never hate on Hans Sama. I do think Hans Sama's flaw is always underrated. But I do think Kalist is a better ADC. I don't think that's even hating me. He checks a lot more of the boxes of things I want to see from like a super aggressive, high mechanical ADC. And I'm sorry, Lavrov isn't even in that conversation. What are we talking about? Like, Busio's better than him. I'd even argue it depends what part of the tournament we're in. Alvaro should be better than him too. Like, I think Busio especially is better than him though. So I don't know. I'm with you. If you think about what we said earlier, one of the reasons we went so overboard with how good Caps and Skewmond is they're the people who won this series. They're the reason why they're champions right now. Like, it wasn't the others. The others could have had different teammates that were really good and they wouldn't have won this final, mate. They'd be second or third in the LEC this split. With that said, though, I get why you're riding the high. Like, everyone thought you were wrong. You stuck with the same players. It must be validating. I get it. By the way, now's the time. Talk your shit. Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I just wanted to add, it's like, if we were to have the conversation of who would be the MVP of the split, it's very rare that I would put two players from the same team. Very, very rare. This is like a rare case where Skewmond and Caps have very, very strong arguments for themselves. Because usually you have one person that is a standout on the team and he's the valuable player on a team. But in terms of where the competition was at and what was required of both Skewmond and Caps, I think they make very good arguments for themselves to be MVP of Winter Split. And for me, very, very rare that you have two guys from the same team being in that bracket, because usually I just pick out one from each team that does something spectacular to raise the team up.
I think I would actually just put Skewmond as my MVP, because I even actually did think in some of those BO1s, like, he wasn't the reason they lost the game. Sometimes they actually didn't even play for him, mate. Like, sometimes I thought they made him have some sus fucking drafts. By the way, there's the one last thing to say about G2 as well. Mate, you know what's interesting? I could do the obvious thing, which is you just pick Dylan Falco, because Dylan Falco's been there a long time. And also, he was even, the joke is he was in with Caps in Fnatic when they were winning the championship. And obviously, they've had a fantastic relationship all these years. But bro, it's more than that. It's the whole coaching staff. Like, one of the most impressive things is, here's the thing, if you watch other teams, I do think people are going too far. Like, there's a lot of great teams in history have won without being able to buy a whole massive coaching staff. In fact, right now is when a lot of people would say you can't justify getting like 3 massive names. The difference is, though, when people blame Fnatic for only having the 2 classic coaching staff, G2 are the masters of actually the full support staff. They have like a modern football setup, bro, because if people don't know, they've not only got the Rodrigo guy who does all that shit, they've got Romain himself, they've got Memento who only came in last year. Like, they have the whole staff, mate. It's fucking awesome. Like, and I do think if you look at Dylan Falco's career, mate, he's on that Chovy shit earlier. Maybe you might like the peaks of other people, but the floor of Dylan Falco is crazy, bro. Like, he just is one of the greatest drafters to ever play League, mate. He's unreal, isn't he?
Oh, it's like the main pain points of anything, like looking at the good, right? Dylan Falco was early Fnatic and then later Fnatic, the 2 good versions of it. And then it was, of course, he went over to North America, had a stint with Huni Rain over, where they played Lucian. That one was kind of odd. But it's like, even on the lower end, when he was in Schalke, it's like, bro, like these are very, very respectable fucking years. It's like he was a part of the Miracle Run as well. And that requires a very specific mind. I think in terms of what G2 has built for him and like really, really leaning into his strengths is just really, really good. I mentioned on the previous episodes, it's like that what G2 has done is definitely like the dream. Because even though like I have a long list of being on different teams, I never joined a team without the intention of staying there for the rest of my career. I feel like that's the only way for you to really demand what you believe is excellence from everybody and wanting to move the project forward. It's like, it's very different. It's like, oh, I'm staying here for 1 year. I'm just gonna be like, it is what it is. Like it's a different mentality altogether if you're planning to move to the next job right after. And G2 have really pieced together the dream. Like even Rodrigo, like I really wanted to sign him in the in-between, and then he went with Dylan Falco, could they continue together in G2? And that was someone that I want, because I knew like from an analytical standpoint, I've seen some of his work, which was a long time ago. I'm sure he has upgraded tenfold. Even then I was like, damn, this is fucking revolutionary in terms of what you've built. So the G2 coaching staff, I think you just have such faith that even if any new player comes into the system, that they're going to be able to perform in G2 better than anywhere else, most likely. Like that's why the prospect and the idea of a Kalist in G2 sounds fucking amazing, because maybe he'll just be even more unlocked, which is an interesting,
Oh, mate, that's even how you sell him on it. You sell him on like the Darth Vader thing of like, I will complete your training. You know, it's like, this is like the last step you need to become like the ultimate player, because you've already shown that. I agree. First of all, he's also been fabulous at working in like more inexperienced and not as good players and bringing them to their peak level. And actually, the Schalke period you referenced, mate, is where you really see how insane this guy is. Mate, you go look at some of those rosters, and he had those guys top 4 in some of the splits. Like, it's not like he's some Pep Guardiola that's had the best players constantly. Yeah, he's had Fnatic and G2. Those are excellent squads. First of all, by the way, in those Fanatics and G2s he's the one who introduces some of those players as top players. They weren't top players yet until he got them. Now they're all bona fide, the Hall of Famers. And then also, you don't put him with lesser talents. He's also got the dual threat, mate. You know, there's coaches normally that are either coaches for star players or they're coaches of like shit players and they raise the floor. He's got both. This guy can just do both aspects. It's why low-key, it's not even just about the championships. He gets to be like the GOAT coach in the same way as like in LPL, it's on. Like, you just put these guys with anyone and they cook. They just make it work somehow. Mad respect.
I wanted to ask you, Thorin, objectively, on the list of GOAT coaches, where do I land?
There we go. I knew you were going to do
it. In Europe.
Well, here's the sad thing. Obviously, I'll do a quick one in my head, but people are actually your problem is this. People are just going to think of Los Atones now or the bad KC, etc., and hate on you. But what they forget is you have to look at the high points. Like, if I'm making lists of the greatest coaches of all time, like Dylan Falco's number 1. I'd have Youngbuck up there. I think he had a very good run as well. So there's 2. It's already getting a short list, mate, because here's the thing, I'm already after that. Surely I'm already at people like Braceway. Melzer hasn't really been there long, mate. Does he really get to just jump the queue? I don't know about that. I think he's only done a couple of years. KC, that's just too short an amount of time. I think you're actually in the top 5. Like, after I go down Falco Youngbuck, then I'm already going to people like, mate, an underrated one's Freddie 122. Look at the fucking regular season performances this guy had. Like, every split, they used to win like 13 games. It was nuts. So you'd be top 5, I think. Your problem is, like I say, if people thought, it's a bit like, funny enough, it's funny that you've actually coached him. I do think of your career a bit like upsets. Your main problem is you didn't win the championship, so people don't credit your highs. And then if they're a hater, they just only look at the bad ones and pretend like the bad thing was the whole thing. But if you have a look at the average and you look at your high periods, you can compete with anyone, mate.
I'm very proud of my career, you know? Like, because obviously I'm very biased. Like, for me, I don't put anyone but Dylan Falco above myself in terms of what I've done. Because I think just from my moves into the World Championships, like looking back, it's like now that I'm out of the game, I can say it, but it's like 2021 Fnatic, the mess that I was in, managing to piece that together with Bippo Jungle and Adam
worlds that were basically semi-destroyed as well, didn't you? You had 2 worlds runs that you never got to have the proper run and see what happened.
It was like with the Splice roster, you know, it's like that was a full rookie team, Vitality.
By the way, the Splice roster had probably the most unfair draw I've ever seen in the World Championship. You came in as the Wildcat and got like the most stacked group possible. It was insane.
I look back and I felt like I was I think I was very good at choosing the projects I wanted to work with. Because I sometimes, basically from outside, I looked at it and it's like, oh, this is a team that they're not even in the league anymore. They're like out. And like, because when I practically begged the Rocket to take me as a coach. Because they had the roster with Nuktak, with Jankos and Woolite and Vander, and I'm looking from the outside. Like, these guys, they are 9th place. How is it even possible? This team is 9th place. Coming to the team, we made playoffs, took Origin to 5 games, almost made it to World Championship. So I'm fucking proud of that. You know, I'm very, very proud of that. So for me, I just wanted to ask you that question. But where you put me, I don't mind that.
Because I also do think, look, a part of it's also that Dylan Falco has done the caps where he's won all the fucking championships. There's nothing left for anyone else, is there? Because like, if you think of the other names that would even be in the mix here, like, people are going to say Grabs, but my problem is Grabs only one with the absolute greatest players to ever play League of Legends. Like, I'm not hating on him. I mean, I even like Grabs a lot. The problem is, though, I'm a bit underwhelmed by what he did in his other projects. Like, here's the problem, especially last year, mate, that roster had the real chance to win the LEC. Like, there was so much possible, and really that it never got over the line. I will say it, just like with you, though, one thing I think people were way too harsh with this, though. People did, I think, blame you a lot for that Fnatic roster not winning the 2022 onwards roster. But what people don't seem to realize is nobody wins with Fnatic. As no one missed the story. Like, every single great coach who's had Fnatic's never won. Like that, the only people to win was fucking Dylan Falco and them donkeys years ago when it wasn't even called LEC. Like nobody, I'm sorry, plenty of other people had Razork and Humanoid. How did that work out for them? They didn't win either. If anything, by the way, you actually had your team about as close as anyone's come. You and Nightshare had them right at the knocking on the door, and then I'm sorry, there's only so much your coach can do. At the end of the day, the player's the one in football who kicks the ball and decides if it goes in or saves the ball. Like the player has to play the game once you've set it up. Like in my opinion, you and Nightshare, you can certainly look back and have regrets over individual series, but if you look at like the general record, say I had him in position over and over again. At the end of the day, they have to win, and also we're playing teams that are some of the greatest lineups of all time. Those G2 rosters will be like in it. If I was to now make my top 5 lineups of all time, those would be the top 5 lineups of all time, the ones that beat you guys.
I'm with you on the 2022 one. I think like that's where I look back, and I think those were the 2 splits that needed to be won. Because like Europe was not in a good shape at all, and we managed to get Humanoid on paper. Like obviously, it's like it's easy to meme on Javier, especially with like the number, the dollar, but that money didn't come from my bank account.
Oh, no.
It's like I got Humanoid, who was by far the best mid laner the previous year.
Yep.
When Caps had a down year, right, with the G2 super roster, and we managed to get him from Mad Lions. That was definitely the year that I look at as like a failure in terms of where we landed in the end. 100%. It's like both splits. It's like G2 with Flaket, Targamas, that spring split that they won, and then the summer to drop the ball against Rogue. Those are the two series that I look back at as that those should have been trophies in our cabinet for sure.
And then to end this conversation, I don't give a fuck about anyone from the 2010s, and here's why. Because that was the era of League of Legends where players won the championship almost entirely. Like you did a little bit as a coach, you give them discipline or structure, you did some of the draft, not even all of it. But I can tell you what, if you look at 2010s coaches, bro, I knew some of those star players, and some of them were really rude and would privately be like, I don't even think I have a coach. Like I do whatever the fuck I want, basically. Like I play a solo queue, I do what he says in the scrims, but if I want to pick something in the game, I pick it. Like, and he has to figure out a way afterwards to tell the interviewer, no, I thought I could, and he has to pretend he picked that champion. You know what I mean? Like League was way more about like individual strength. I think in the modern day, coach has a way to do it. You what?
When I was that player, you know, when I was a player, I had a coach telling me what the fuck to do. Like I trust him once, and then if he's wrong, I would never fucking listen to him again. You know.
No, I'm not exaggerating. I've always given an example because he doesn't mind me saying it publicly. So as genuinely, when I would talk to him, bro, he doesn't think he had a coach basically until like Dylan Falco. Like before that, his thing was like, look, I'm not going to be rude, do your shit, coach guy, but I'm going to do what I want anyway, man. And I'm going to win you the game, so just let me do my shit, basically. Like essentially, you coach the other guy. I'm doing my shit. But no, and I think in the modern day, especially with how complicated drafts got, and especially in the failure surge now, I think coach has a massive impact now. I think now is when it's the primary to be a coach. So yeah, now I'm with you. Okay.
I have a small anecdote I can share. Like I remember there was like in conjunction with SOAS, a coach that he had at one point. I'm not gonna make it too specific because then like the name is so obvious. A coach that he had got drunk before a very important series and was sharing draft strategies at the bar. So that's the type of experiences he's had, where basically back in the days, coaches were just glorified managers, barely that even, you know.
It's okay, true though. Right, okay, I tell you what we'll do. Obviously, I will say this. On future episodes, there's going to be a lot more room for us to do some more Q&A because obviously we've just ended 3 of the regions as of right now. We've only got the LPL, and then the first stand will come, but then we'll be mainly covering that. Let's do like a nice amount of questions now, boy. You want to do some Q&A?
Let's do it.
Right, I'll give you the option because in theory it depends how you fit. Do you want to do a little break or do you want to just go straight in?
Let's rock and roll, bro.
Let's go. I'm with you as well. Let's do it. We'll go straight in. So, okay, if you want to submit a question, in theory, if you do it quickly right now and it's live, you might even have a chance to get it in on this episode. Subscribe to the Last V Nation Discord, and then we have an actual channel, SI Questions, where you just put your question in there, and I pick the ones that are interesting. I will say, there are loads of questions, so I'll never get to them all, and I tend to pick them based on if they're interesting or think there'll be an interesting answer. Sometimes, by the way, it'll be a great question, which might not be one that we can answer. So we'll do it as a mixed bag, as usual. So here's a good one for you. Spooken says, have you had any days or nights that felt like a Twilight Zone episode? Have you ever seen the Twilight Zone, by the way?
No. I know I've heard about it, but
it's a famous essentially think of like Black Mirror, but it doesn't have to be evil. Black Mirror tends to be quite dystopian and dark, but it's the idea, it's an anthology series where each episode, the idea of the Twilight Zone is just the idea that like something wacky is happening or something strange. So I'll give you an example. There's like a classic episode where there's a bunch of people in a department store, but then the twist at the end is they were just the mannequins, but at night when the shop closes, the mannequins come to life and have their own life and stuff like that. Or there's an episode where a woman's having a dream, and in the dream, you don't know it's a dream at the time, the whole universe is actually like way too hot and everything's like sweltering heat. But then when she wakes up, it was the opposite. In reality, it was all snow and she was dreaming of heat and the idea of how amazing that was. So essentially, it's almost like subverting your expectations, or wow, what if night was day? So essentially what he's asking is, has there ever been like a day that was so crazy and surreal? You were like, what the fuck is this? Have you ever had an experience like that?
Honestly, at that level, not really. Right? I feel like I would need to do psychedelics or something to experience something freaky like that. It's like, I can't think of anything crazy besides, like, I guess I have one. There was a point in time, okay? Basically, like, my father's very, very harsh with me, right? It was like, I had finally gotten my key to the house, you know? It's like, oh, you can lock the door, you have to unlock the door, but you're not allowed to lose this key. If you lose this key, the world goes under. Like, that's basically what I'm told, right? I come home, I've lost my key, right? And then my father tells me, you have to go outside, look for the key. If you don't find the key, don't come home. That's what he told me, right? So I'm outside, I'm retracing my steps, I'm looking everywhere. I'm going to bus stops. I'm like walking over grass. I'm doing the thing where I'm like looking for my keys all the time. I'm looking for my keys, like, oh, like just in a ridiculous way. I'm like lifting like random trash because I'm scared of my dad. And I'm thinking, like, I'm like 12 years old. I'm not going to come home. And finally I reach this bus stop and there's this guy that just seemed, he just looked very strange. At the time, like, I didn't know the drugs or anything, but he was obviously, like, thinking back at it, really tweaking on something. He had like this huge medallion with a face on it, like across his chest. And then he sees me like pilfering through the grass, like right next to the bus stop.
Is it like Jamaican or something? Is that the premise? Is this guy like a Caribbean guy?
No. This guy was just, okay. I don't know. Like, he comes over to me. He's like, oh, what you doing? I'm like, I'm looking for my keys. And he's like, oh, you're looking for your keys? And he's like, he like looks through, he's like, oh, I haven't seen any of your keys. And then he's like, actually, maybe I saw your keys. And then he's like, randomly, throughout the conversation, he thinks to himself that he's seen the keys, but obviously he's never seen the keys, right? And then he starts telling me stories. And he's like, you know what this is on my chest? He's like, this is the god of theft in Greek theology. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, yeah, I make my money stealing shit. I was like, why are you telling me this? He's like, yeah. And then he started sharing stories. He's like, you know what I always do when I need money? It's like, I go to random electronic shops and then we basically find outfits with the same colors of the people that work there. And then we just walk in and then we just screw down TVs and then we just carry them out and we just pretend to work there. And no one says anything. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Great premise for a movie. I'd watch the fuck out of this movie. It sounds great, doesn't it?
This guy, he starts following me along. So I'm like looking for my keys for 2 hours. And this is like a 30-year-old on meth. Oh, yeah. just telling me stories about their heists and shit. And over and over again. And then it's like suddenly it's starting to become dark. Like I've retraced all my steps. I can't find my keys. And it's like, I'm thinking to myself, it's like, I'm going to just sneak home, see what happens. It's like I come home, my mom hugs me. It's like my father did this thing whenever he's angry at me, he just doesn't look at me. He just sits and I can see from his neck that there's menace and tension in the room, Nevertheless, I didn't find the keys. I looked for 8 hours. This weird ass dude who helped me and he told me all the stories. 2 years later, turns out my key went into a hole in the jacket pocket that just made it like swirl inside somewhere.
It was like inside your coat, an area.
Yeah, it was in my jacket. Couldn't hear it because it was just only one key.
That's even worse, right?
And then it was just like snuck inside, and then suddenly, like, I'm wearing that jacket again, and I feel something. What the fuck? I think I fell over, played soccer, played football, and I like sliding tackle, and it's like something's cutting into me. It's like, what the hell is this? and I find that dumbass key. And the thing is, like, I suffered for like 3 months when my father was just like pissed at me. But something that just stood out was this goofy ass dude that I just never saw again. Because whenever I shared that story with anybody, it's like there was this guy who dressed like borderline a wizard and had this fucking thing, this fucking shield of a man on the chest, and that to me I think back to that day as a fucking freaky one that when I share it just seems unbelievable.
I've actually already told 2 stories. So even though sadly I can't do like the Marvel comics of like, check out episode issue 13 where he revealed the backstory. I don't know what episode it'll be on, but if you go to past Q&A sections, I've already told 2 of these as stories for like Twilight Zone. Like, remember the story of the one where the story was like I was at like the ESL offices and I searched up a term and then I went home and I couldn't find it because I'd saved it as a bookmark on the like browser on there. But then I remember I had like a dream where in the dream I went onto my computer at home and searched it and it was there, even though it doesn't make sense because that wasn't the same computer. So there's that one. And then I told an episode, I can't remember if it was, I think it wasn't on one with you. I think it was when Nightmare was here. I told a story about the time where I got diverted on maybe it was last week. That one that I went to Guam.
The flying. Yeah.
Those are already, those could be Twilight episodes themselves. What I will say is this: I do have a very weird general trend, and I'll say this because it doesn't matter if I tell people, you can't make it happen more. It's already happening as much as it can. You know, in the movie Inception, Yamato, the Christopher Nolan movie Inception, where you go into dreams, you remember really early in the film when they go into the dream to do the heist, they explain that if like the dreamer in any way becomes aware that that it's a dream, then all the like NPCs in the dream like attack you and come after you. Right? For some reason, Yamato, I have that happen to me every day of my life on a really low level, though, which is one, I do low-key think some people aren't real. I think there are actually NPCs in whatever world we live in where they just like, they're fake characters. They're miserably a cardboard cutout, mate. They're not a real person with like childhood. They just have like a backstory, like a movie. And unfortunately, the problem I have is this, Yamato. It can't just be me, but it is me, sadly. If I just try walking down the street, if I'm ever late, bro, if I need to get somewhere in 10 minutes and Google says it's a 20-minute walk, so I need to walk twice as fast, I just get these motherfuckers just spawn out of thin air and they just walk in the shittest walking fashion possible and block me. Like, and they'll always look like they're not doing it like they're aware I'm there, Yamato, but they just congregate, like they just appear in my way. And like, say I have to like really quickly get down some like escalators. Suddenly, like the oldest grandmother of all time will just come out of nowhere from behind a tree and be walking like a baby cat. And then she'll be going really slowly down the thing, like, oh God, I need to get down there. Like, it just happens so often. It's crazy. I always say people have like world-class inadvertent blocking skills when they're near me, bro. They're always in my way. And at this point, it actually feels like just fucking walking is an actual like skill. That's like a skill set that people don't. I took it for granted that everyone could just walk and like navigate and go, oh, there's someone in my way, I'll just move out the way. They don't do that, mate. They just don't. Somehow every person conspires to make me late if they can. I don't know why. It's just a thing. It's actually why, though, low-key, I can tie it to what we talked about earlier, though. You know that thing of, like, slow is smooth and smooth is fast? Tell you another thing I did learn about life, and this is actually a tip I'm going to give everyone right now. You know, if you ever are in a rush, like you're supposed to be there at 5 past and you leave your house at, like, the hour, so you're never going to get there in time. One of the ultimate things that will fuck you up if you're behind is rushing. You actually should go 10% slower. Like, for example, by the way, if you're just doing something like putting your coat on and putting all things in your pocket, if you rush, you'll actually go too fast and it'll fuck up your coordination and you'll like drop something or you'll like trip over or you'll get caught. If you actually just go 10% slower, you'll just get it done smoothly and it actually will make it easy. That's like a secret I had to learn in life because I noticed in general, wait a minute, why is it always when I'm late, I'm always like fucking up and tripping over or like that's when like my shoes don't get put on properly or I fucking forgot something about because I was too much. Slowing down even 10% actually does help. It does help a lot, actually. Okay, here is another question. Franny Boy asks, what was the biggest gap between the number 1 and number 2 player in league history?
I guess it's like there's 3 occasions that stand out. And we've mentioned 2 of them earlier, which is, in my mind, like Faker 2013.
Yep.
You could also say Faker 2015.
Yeah.
And then the Chovy, the spring split into MSI. And then the third one, to say Rookie 2018. I think that he was untouchable, rookie 2018. I think that mid laners were not close to him at all. And then in terms of measuring the biggest gap, I do think it's like the counter argument against Chovy, which is in reality an argument pro, is that I do think that he had better competition. Has better competition. Like we still had Knight, Caps, Faker. Those guys were right there, but he was outperforming them, and there was a gap between Chovy and everybody else, a really, really clear one. But in terms of distance, I do think the rookie one specifically, because I'm trying to think of the mid laners that I would even have in that conversation, and it was like Xiaohu, maybe Xiaohu, like in Scout, yeah. It's like the distance becomes very, very measurable.
Especially because remember, 2018 was a really bad Faker year too. So if let's do the 2018 one first. I'm with you, mate. Like at the time, Xiaohu was really good, but he was also on that team with Uzi Highway, played through the bot lane. You have I guess BDD was still good around then, but that wasn't like his peak time. No, that's actually a pretty good year. It's probably a forgotten one. Because I'm with you. The other ones seem more obvious. Like Faker 2013. Well, ironically, the second best player, depending on what time of year it is like Ryu, Ambition. Like, I'm sorry, that gap was crazy, and that was his rookie year. That's why Faker always was set up to be the GOAT, because a bit like in Counter-Strike, we're already on the third year of Donk playing, but because his first 2 years are so crazy, he's already going to be a GOAT contender, mate, because he started the best, which is so rare. 2015 is also a banger because, like, the joke is the second best player wouldn't even have been a mid laner. It'd probably be like Deft or something. You know what I mean? Like, at that point in time, like that's why, unfortunately, Faker 2015 doesn't look as impressive when you look back, because you look back and you're like, wait a minute, he's playing Nagni and Kuro. It's like, that's just who was around back then. I'm sorry. Like, and at the time, they didn't have the Knights of the World. Like, people like Cool were good, but they weren't on the level of what people like Xiaohu was later or Knight is now. And then I actually agree with you, though. The reason the Chovy one is a banger is because, bro, it's 2024. We're not talking about 2030, way back. This is quite recent. And at the time, there's lots of good teams, but like Knight was worse than him at that time. Faker's worse than him at that time. Everyone is. There's a lot of competition, but he's just had. That's why low key, I know what you mean. It's not a coincidence that, like, after that spring split 2024 is when I wrote one of my first Substack pieces ever, which was like, welcome to the Chovy era. Because I was like, I've seen enough. This player now is the best player to play in League of Legends. I've just never seen this level. It's too good. I can't even think of another one, by the way. I think those are the best picks. Those 4 picks are all legit. It's also why, low-key, if you never watched Rookie's career, it doesn't matter that he wasn't winning the LPL, boys. Go watch the games. He was fucking smurfing 24/7. It was crazy. It was actually crazy. Right. And in fact, if anyone ever looks and goes, well, he didn't win it till he got Jakob. No, it's the other way around. He used to carry fucking Kid and people like that to, like, relevance when they had no business even being there. Right. What about this question then? So here's a good one. The Dog says, he took a quote from the film Nosferatu, which says, in heathen times, you might have been a great priestess of Isis. And so the reason he puts this quote is he says, what modern era player would have been cool to watch play back in the very early seasons of... Oh, wait, did we already do this one? Oh, no, I think the person just ticked it as I was doing a comment now. Right, is there a player in the modern day you'd like to teleport back and have them play early league?
Oh, damn. You got to start.
I'll give you one. I'll give you one. It's funny because people would counterintuitively think he has his strength for similar reasons now. But I'll tell you what, we talked about in this episode, mate. I would love to take Inspired and go, you know what? Your Diamond Proxy's competition back in the early days of League. Because, mate, this guy has that. Remember, back in the day, people were way more open-minded to, like, crazy picks and weird comps and stuff. And you could also pick a lot more for yourself back then. Like, I think this guy, if you gave him the original set of champions, he would have some mad fucking picks, you know. Because you remember the early days when, if people don't know, it wasn't just that Diamond Prox was the best. He used to just pick champions that weren't even jungle champions and be mega on them. Like, I would love to see what Inspired would do back in the day with the fucking Evelyns and shit like that, you know. This is a creative player. I'd love to see, give him total open book, you know.
My mind just goes to a place where, like, I would just send also good movie idea is just we take like all the best mid laners and we just send them back to 2013, 15 and just give Faker the competition, you know, just to see how it pans out. but it's so unfair in a way. In this exercise, I would imagine more like Chovy in the context of that era rather than current Chovy. Because current Chovy, if you send him back, like he's going to do mean things to everybody in the game, and it would just change the trajectory of League of Legends forever in a fucked up way that the game would just not even look the same from a balance perspective, and the champions involved, everything would have changed. But that's just where my mind goes. I'm just looking at it in a greedy way, where there are some matchups that we just never got to see. And it's like, it would be fun to see like Kalist against like Forgiven, you know, like when he was playing at his best. Like that would be fucking fun just to see, you know, those clashes that just didn't overlap career-wise.
I'll give you another one. I actually, even though I understand this guy did play reasonably early, he just wasn't there at the very beginning of like 2013. Bro, I'd love to send Ruler back. And here's why. Because, mate, I've always thought that the two players that I think played the ADC position the best are actually Deft and Ruler. And the reason why is they play the classical style of ADC that everyone now associates with how an ADC should play. And if you put these guys, because I did see this with Deft, if you put Ruler, mate, in like 2013, bro, everything's just a normal 5v5 front-to-back team fight. Like, this guy would absolutely cook the shit out of the game. Because he has to do all this in the modern day, mate, when you have like a billion spell rotations and all these crazy assaults and the support has gold. If you put him back in the old days where the AD carry was the AD carry, this guy would absolutely smurf all over everyone. It'd be unbelievable. I could see him being one of the best players ever, even in then, that era, mate. Okay, we'll move on. So, what about this question? So, wait there a second. All right, here's a mad one, but it's a funny one, so I'll ask it. Tallahassee Riot Supervisor says, are girlfriends still ruining the LCS/LEC? Remember, it was a famous Crumbs quote where he said, girlfriends ruined the LCS as well. Are they still ruining the LCS/LEC? What would you say?
Well, I do think that a lot of, if not the majority of players in the LEC/LCS are immature boys. And with that comes, you know, that managing love and managing a relationship requires finesse, especially with the strain and the pressure that is put on you in terms of schedule with the LEC. I think for most people it doesn't make sense because it's very hard to be a good partner while you're competing. It's like you're busy 24/7 and there's no spare time. And I do think that while the quote says girlfriends are ruining esports or whatever, I think it just comes down to like boys not knowing how to manage anything, because most of the time it's like we talk about how socially they are unique, right? And I think that most pro players are quite like eccentric, and I think in most cases it's like they got to where they were because they grinded League of Legends 16 hours a day. Already that is a specific type of person that doesn't necessarily like socialize or deal with all of these things. And then you get thrust into the limelight where for some people, the first team they play on in some cases, it's rarer nowadays, but often that is the first time they get money, the first time they have freedom, the first time they have new responsibilities, and I do think that can be a perfect storm of ruining things for yourself. But I would never, the phrase blames the girlfriends, but we are blaming the boys for not knowing how to manage their life, in the end, because it's like to be a partner to someone that has no time for them is also like a difficult thing that maybe is sometimes hard to grasp. Because it's like I've been in a relationship for 10 years, I'm engaged. But there were periods where I didn't see her at all, and she just understood. It's like, oh, yeah, Jakob is competing, and that's what he does, because that's the only way to do it. But there were periods where it was tough. It's like, oh, you don't care about me, you don't care. So it's like you have to like compromise and find ways to deal with it. And I think that to this day, I still hear stories that some players just like fall off a cliff because they don't know how to find balance in the responsibility. So it's still true, because humans are the same.
The problem is, like, there's two ways you can do this. One is, yes, if you just say it as an outright statement with no context, girlfriends are ruling the LCS or LEC, people will just take that as you're just blaming women, the men have no responsibility, and it's just women general, not even a type of woman or a specific one, it's just women in general are bad somehow, and they should, like, I don't know, we should all be monks and have no relationships, and that would be better for the game, which I also think is too far. With that said, though, I will say the problem is, obviously, as a general trend, you're right, it's largely men have to in some way be held responsible because they're the one who have the girlfriend and who then respond to the girlfriend and do whatever it is that you're even thinking the girlfriend participates. And like at the end of the day, this isn't like, this would be a different statement if it was like a mixed game where you have 2 women and 3 men, and then it's like, are the girlfriends ruining the male players, but then the girls who play, that would be a different scenario. So in this set, my problem with this is yes and no. So yes, in this sense, there absolutely have been some girlfriends who were really, really negative people. I would say not only to their boyfriend, but to the team environment. Like I have heard stories in Counter-Strike and League of Legends that were nightmare fuel, bro, where like one, there are girlfriends where there's a type of girlfriend some people have had. I'll even give a quick analogy actually, because it's not a problem to do so, where basically they get with a pro player for whatever reason, like maybe they even know League or they want someone famous. And then what's weird is almost as like an ego move, they seem to just immediately set about trying to get this player to quit League of Legends as a pro. And you just think, what? And the amount of people I've heard who like retired early because of stuff like that. And it's almost like the girls trying to do something. I don't think they're doing it consciously even. I think unconsciously they wanted to like have the boy prove that they're more valuable than the game, if you know what I mean. Like you choose me over the game. Now the problem I have with that is if that was someone who's a couple of years into a promising career, I think that's kind of fucked up because even though you're trying to get some validation for yourself, you might be ruining this person's career. And in this case, maybe even his passion or his dream. So I do think you can have negative aspects like that. I mean, I'll tell you a story actually. Even though you're going to think this is what a weird pull, believe it or not, you know the really, really old school legendary top laner from Korea called McNoon. You remember this guy way back in the day?
Yeah.
I can tell you, he had a very brief career because he was only like a year or so. He was on that Najin team. And then what happened was he briefly went over and actually was on a team where they were going to rebuild KT, but it was because they already had the B team with Ryu. They were going to build the A team before it became the next year with, you know, Kakao and all that. The year before, they made a roster with McNoon. And this is when I actually went to Korea for the first time for League. I'd already been for CS, but I went and I met Monty, etc. And when I went there, we actually met up with McNoon. And I can tell you, he had some like uber strict Korean girlfriend he'd just gotten with. And bro, she was actually fucking his whole career up. As in, like we would go out with Makru on a random night where there was no scrims and we were having some Korean barbecue. And like 20 minutes into the Korean barbecue, she's like messaging him on the phone, like, where are you? Like, why aren't you here right now? Like, come home right now. Like, oh, I don't care what you're doing. Like, immediately come in the next 20 minutes, you have to come home. And basically, as far as I can tell, she was actually inhibiting his career. Like, she wasn't giving him time to practice or be aware. She was like she was acting like he could retire and just spend all his time with her. But this is like, bro, like 1 year into his pro career. And I'm not surprised, sadly, I don't know what happened with that girlfriend. I'm not surprised he didn't have much of a career after that. Like, he sort of like diverted his attention in a scene where, by the way, back then, his teammates probably didn't even have girlfriends. They were just grinding the game 24/7 in some LAN cafe. So I do think you can have negative aspects of that. Similarly, by the way, worse than making you quit, in my opinion, is there have been girlfriends in both CS and League where they start doing mad shit, like, because you do pillow talk where you tell them all the things that are going on in your mind or problems in the team. Bro, there are girls who start trying to get involved in that and start trying to, like, tell the team who to side or be like, yeah, we should really kick this teammate of yours. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, I can tell you, this is a League podcast, it's not that risky. That's one of the reasons there was some drama in Counter-Strike with the player Twists, who plays for FaZe now, because the perception was his girlfriend, who used to work for ESL and like daughter or something, people thought she was like having too much say in like what happened in his teams that he was on and like who got kicked or how they did things, or maybe sometimes she attempted to speak for the team. Similarly, I'll put it this way, I'll tie this into something you know all about. This is actually why, in a weird way, Yamato, I do a tiny bit understand why people like Adam were pissed about that thing with Upset, because I think they thought that was what was happening. They thought like somehow that his girlfriend was like distracting him or just doing some weird stunt to get his attention, and they thought it fucked up the world's performance for Fnatic. The problem in that case is, I can tell you from behind the scenes, that isn't what happened. Like, that was a very serious real life situation. That wasn't some game or someone just fucking around and being self. That was like a situation where, again, I'll always just say this way, it's not my place to say exactly what happened, but if you knew what happened, everyone who's a fucking man would have gone home in that setting. That absolutely is the moment where you'd go, you know what? There'll be other worlds. This is one I can't be here and then risk the consequence of what might happen if I indeed am. But I do understand that there have been past cases, like I say, where people were like, let's say, overbearing, or they influenced their boyfriend. But the problem I have is, I'll ultimately come back and agree with you at the beginning, though. Most of these cases, though, the girlfriend isn't actually your manager. She's not your coach. She's not your boss. You have to play. At worst, she can only influence you, and then you chose to make that decision. Like, at the end of the day, it is some element of weakness of men that has caused this problem, not what you think of the girlfriend. So I'm with you. If the young men we had in esports just were more responsible, or they knew how to deal with certain relationship quirks, etc., I think a lot of these problems just wouldn't exist no matter what the girlfriend was like. But I do think there have been the odd one that were a bit nuts and that went a bit too far. But put it this way, I'm not one of those people in general who thinks you should, as a team, all do things like I've heard in Korea they did make bans on like who can have girlfriends and shit like that, or tell certain players you're just not like mature enough to have one. Basically, I can see why they do that in Korea when they have more control over your life, but I don't think that's appropriate. Like, I'm sorry, if someone just has that aspect, that's part of what we consider freedom in the West. You have the freedom to pursue these things and fuck your own career up if you want. But I'm with you. It's more weak men than it is actually, like, because you know what? It's very logical too. If you think about Yamato, a lot of the people who were the coaches and the GMs also haven't had a lot of romantic experience, or maybe they were also 25 years old and haven't. So that's one area that we're not like sports. Everyone who's in a position of authority isn't 45 years old who's been in the game for 30 years. So unfortunately, we have a very immature scene in general. The real question is this, and here's the edgy question, but I can't answer it. I'm just going to put it out there as a funny comment, is now that we have women's only leagues, Yamato, I want to know, in their scene, are boyfriends fucking up the league? There's the question for you ladies. You tell me, are boyfriends fucking up the women's league? I want to know that. Because maybe there's some angle I don't know about how men are demanding or something. I'd be interested to actually know that. Obviously, the joke there is someone asked Yamato's fiance, was Yamato ever fucking up her career? Was he ever asking for too much? Was he ever like, hey, baby, look, I'm going to do my shit tonight. Yeah, what exactly? Yamato, I'm choose on the other foot now, mate. Let's draft her in. Let's see. Okay, here's another question. We'll do a couple more, then we'll get out of here.
Yeah.
What about, let me see. By the way, do you read many books? Are you much of a reader?
I have stopped. I used to be. Okay,
so maybe you can answer this then. So Milkman22 says, having recently read The Crying of Lot 49 by Thomas Pynchon on a recommendation, I was astonished how much I hated it. What are some of the most hated recommendations you've gotten? So have you ever had a recommendation for a book where someone's like, you got to read this, you're going to love it, and then you actually just fucking hate it? Is there anything that would fit that category?
No, it's like I like to I don't read a lot of fiction. I never did. Like when I was younger, I did all the time. That was like my escape. But now I feel like I find that escape in just playing games. Like that to me is like a better way to experience fiction. But there's this book that is commonly referred to, and it's 48 Laws of Power. You know,
okay.
It's like in essence, it's like it fits what I would enjoy to read, but as I'm reading it, I'm like, this is just a manual to manipulate people, right? And there was something so dark I felt when I'm reading that. It's like it's in the line of like, oh, this is something that you could use. Maybe there's some strategies you can use there. But I'm just reading. It's like, oh, so I'm just gonna be like cold and like manipulative in these environments where I'm trying to build bonds and create like a higher level of a culture. When it just seemed so Machiavellian almost, like in terms of what the approaches are. It's like say as little as possible, glaze the bosses at all times, and never take credit for anything when you can give credit to bosses above you. And I'm like, what the fuck am I? What kind of a chess game am I playing here? If I have to play this chess game, I'm gonna blow my mind. So 48 Laws of Power definitely is like one of those books. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to manipulate people. If me doesn't belong, then get me out, you know.
No, by the way, I totally know what you mean. Like, actually, if people don't know, that type of book series is presented as like an update of like Machiavelli's work. But I know what you mean. The problem is, you read it and you're like, oh, I can see that this would work. It's just I would never want to be the human that does this. So, like, unfortunately, I can't go on this ride with him, mate. Because even though, yeah, I might get what I want at the end, wouldn't that just be the worst person of all time? Like, to essentially just being a piece of shit to everyone. And if you notice, 90% of the advice, as you're saying about is like, just be dishonest. It's like, fuck no. And by the way, I don't know about you, but I've lived my entire life the other way around. In fact, to a fault, some would say I'm too honest, aren't I? No, by the way,
the only benefit though is that it's like I have noticed when other people do
you'll
it,
notice,
you know?
yes.
Which naturally you do anyway, kind of, right?
No, I know what you mean.
Notice,
I'll give you an example. One area I actually intentionally didn't apply some things I learned. I've actually read quite a lot of books about hypnosis, or as it's often called to make it less sinister, persuasion, which is the idea of how you influence people with how you speak to them. I can just tell you, Yamato, there are loads of techniques that are absolutely real that work, where they're like certain phrases you say that anchor someone's mind at a different point of the conversation and then change how they'll say yes or no later. The problem is, I know what you mean. When I looked at a lot of them, I was like, oh, I'm not actually going to do this because I do think this is like overly manipulative. But it's what you just said there. The most useful thing is to then be able to identify when someone else is doing that to you, though. Because and by the way, the ultimate way to use it is you don't say to them, hey, you're doing this. You're just aware of what they're doing. And then because you know their strategy, it's like if you knew someone's drafting League of Legends, you'd let them draft that way so you'd have a better chance to win against them, but doing your style. So no, I'm with you. No, I actually did have an example for this that I'm going to give, which is, in general, I don't read that much off recommendation, but I will say there are two that I am thinking of. So one is that series that everyone says is super epic, the one they made the show out of, Wheel of Time. Right, I'll never know because there's a billion books of it, right? And the problem is, the first book I thought was so fucking slow and boring. I never got through it. Like that first book, I was like, I can't. And then people did that thing, Yamato, which is cancer, where they go, he gets really good at book 4. I was like, oh, fuck you. I'm not reading 3 books on the off chance the 4th one's. So there's that one. And then if anyone knows the author, another fantasy author, the guy called Brandon Sanderson, that everyone in League loves. For some reason, Travis loves him the most. Like, I have never understood what people liked about this guy's book. He's not even bad. He's just, for me, the definition of a mid-writer. Like, it's just average. So I don't get what people... So I've had a bunch of people recommend his books. And when I read them, I was like, this is just all right, man. I don't get it, though. I haven't really had any I'd say I hated, though. Like, I've actually been quite lucky. I haven't read many books I thought were really bad generally. Not really. I mean, even then, there wouldn't be things that were like. I'll give an example. Like the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown is not a good book in any case, but no one ever told me you got to read it. It's the greatest shit of all time. Like, so to be fair, I never had that as a recommendation. Right. Last question. Let's see. All right, we'll do it. So, Jirotaku says a few episodes ago, it was mentioned that Chinese fans have brought some great nicknames like Unkillable Demon King. What are some of your favorite nicknames of all time? What stands out for you? Favorite nicknames of all time?
Shit. All I can think of is shitty nicknames I've made up, which are not that good.
I'll give you an example
in this category.
One I think is one of the all-time nicknames was for the player Dandy, where because he was amazing at Smite, Prince of Thieves. That's a peach, right? I know he didn't play long enough for it to be that iconic, but that's a fucking mega nickname, innit? That's banging, mate.
Damn, bro, you just take this question. Give me more if you have.
It's pretty good. Shoot. What else do I like?
Damn, Prince of Thieves.
It's straight fire, isn't it? It's actually unbelievably good, isn't it?
Well, that's the guy I met, by the way, when I was looking for my keys.
Right. Sure.
Fucking hell.
What else? Right. What's mad is they have one in right, here's what's sad. In Counter-Strike, people don't do this. I actually get triggered by this. In Counter-Strike, we had an era, Yamato. This is why Westerners don't have these nicknames, because even when someone thinks them up, they don't become like popular on social media like they do in the Chinese scene, because specifically the Chinese scene, probably a mixture of how many people they've got and also their mindset. They just come up with these cool nicknames like as though it was a shonen anime. Right, we had 2 in Counter-Strike that would have been amazing, bro, because they would have set the table for the best rivalry ever, and dickheads just refused to use them. And when I tell you, you're going to actually get mad at this, bro. Right, so you ready? If you ever do, like, Simple, when he was the GOAT, what happened was when he won his major, PGL Stockholm in 2021, Richard Lewis used to always refer to Simple as the Great One. And he just meant because Simple was the greatest player ever. But I realized, and I said this to Richard, and we nailed it, but no one ever listened to what I said. I said, bro, but his name actually has the number 1 in it. So what we should call him is the Great One, but the great number 1. It should be the Great and then the number 1, because there's a lot of players also, instead of an I, have had the number 1, but he's obviously the Great. So there's that one, no one did it, sadly. Instead, they just call him like the or whatever. And then the worst one is the Ziwu one. A lot of people won't know this one if you're not from CS. There's a crazy detail about Ziwu, which is he was born on the day retail Counter-Strike came out. He was born on that day.
Damn.
So we used to have a nickname for him, The Game, like Triple H. So I even said, and this is what's sad, they don't do either. Do you know what they do instead? They just do generic shit. Like they call Ziwu the Chosen One, right? One, that doesn't work because Simple's name has a 1 in it. And secondly, everyone who's great was the Chosen One. And then 2, imagine if you'd have done these nicknames though, the Great One against the Game. That's fucking banging. That's actually, but we didn't do it, sadly. Everyone just forgot him after a couple of years. I tried a few times to make people do it, but they just forgot about it. So sadly, no.
Shit. I think we leave it at that, Thorin.
Yeah, leave it there, right? We'll be back on the next episode, mainly to talk about the LPL, but don't worry, if you submit a question, we'll do fuck tons of Q&A in the next one.